journey week by week. SNL's best episodes they seek. From Colin to Hanks to Mulaney, counting down moments for you and me. Amazing episodes, epic hosts, the ones that the fans love the most.
Yes, so welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network for the second edition of our countdown of SNL's greatest hosts of all time. Here to count down 43, 44, 45, and 46 here tonight. Our guys count up however order you want to do it in. But yeah, welcome on into the podcast. Happy to be back with you on this Monday night, as we are every Monday night throughout the summer, to reveal more episodes on the list that you voted for the greatest episodes of all time. Bill Kenny will be with me every single Monday night, and so happy to be back with him for a second week in a row. Bill, how are you?
I'm good, man. What nice jam. You surprised us again with the new song.
I wasn't ready for last week, but I got it for this week.
Yeah, that was quite a bop. I like that. So that's a great way to start. I had so much fun last week, and I think we've got really 4 great episodes to talk about, and I'm so happy that Demi's with us.
Yes, so excited to talk about all of the episodes that we have here tonight. We had a blast last week. It was so much fun. So if you haven't gone back and checked that out, you will be spoiled on the episodes that we revealed last week. So just fair warning, 3, 2, 1, we will continue now with the episode reveal in just a few minutes. Of course, we're here as a presentation of latenighter.com, and we will be joined every Monday night by some amazing podcasters and patrons throughout the series who will give their thoughts and input on how this list is coming together. And first up, our first guest here for the summer is the amazing Demi. Demi, how are you?
I'm well, John. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I know it's always a blast to get you on the feedback show, so this is going to be a lot of fun. What was your, thoughts or feelings when you found out that we're going to be doing this greatest episodes countdown this summer?
Oh, I was so excited to really just I'll have a full spread newspaper of all the sketches and everything. I'm so excited about it. I just love to watch it. I'm so excited to be here to talk about it with Bill as well. So I'm psyched.
Yeah, it's going to be great. We're going to have a lot of fun here tonight. Of course, we still have a lot of other patrons who will join us throughout the summer, and we still have some spots on some future shows. So if you want to register for one of the shows and you haven't yet, patreon.com/the SNL Network. And I notified all of our patrons last week that I'll contact you about a month, maybe 3 weeks in advance of your show to book you. So if you haven't heard from me yet, don't worry, you will still hear from me, and we will make sure to get you on a show this summer. Still 13 more weeks of this countdown to go after tonight. So Bill, we had so much fun last week going through those first 4 episodes. Any initial thoughts before I bring up the list?
Yeah, I think we're going to get some interesting ones that maybe you or I hadn't thought of as we go through this list. There were certainly a couple last week that I don't think would have made my top 50, but they were still a lot of fun to talk through. And I think we're going to see some interesting hosts. So we did the host last year. I know when I went through and made my 50, I was careful not to do like 6 Steve Martin episodes or 5 Alec Baldwin episodes. So I think we're not going to see quite as much as of the iconic hosts that we all know. But there are a few, and might even be one tonight. But I think that's really, really going to be interesting if we get into stuff like we got into last week with Dag, David Alan Grier, and somebody who's almost forgotten to time. So that's going to be fun as we go through this week by week.
Yeah, the hidden gems and the things that we don't get to talk about because we are mostly here for our podcast with current day coverage. Obviously, we have our Everything You Need to Know series. We have this stuff that we do throughout the summer, but it is fun to get to talk about things that we don't normally get to speak about. So let's talk about the 4 episodes that we brought to you last week. So I'm going to put them up on screen. And here we go. Let's take a look here. So at 50, we had Patrick Swayze and Mariah Carey from 1990, season 16. At 49, we had Michael Jordan and Public Enemy at season 17, episode 1 there. Then we had David Alan Grier, season 21, with musical guest Silverchair. That was a really interesting episode that Bill said that we talked about. And then Anne Hathaway's first episode, season 34, episode 4, with music from The Killers. So those were the 4 that were revealed last week. Demi, any thoughts on the initial 4 that came into the countdown last week?
Oh, I'm so glad that the Michael Jordan episode and the David Alan Grier episode was given full coverage, because I forgot. I remember watching them live and I forgot how great they were. And I just really appreciate going through the different sketches in order. I've been thinking about it actually since the last show. Oh my God, that was a great time to be alive. with Chris Farley and Michael Jordan in the same building. So those two stuck out. I'm really glad they're getting some shine here. So I'm glad.
Yeah, those are really fun. Bill, how do you think the listeners did last week with the initial reveal?
Oh, really great. I think the only one that might not have deserved as high of praise maybe was the Jordan episode, but still, nothing that would be 100 to 200. I think every one of these would be in anyone's top 100 episodes. So the fact that you're going to have different opinions on certain things, and if I'm a Jordan fan. I don't think the episode was the strongest, but it was, as Demi says, like really fun to go back and watch these, even if every sketch wasn't a banger. Like there was a lot of good stuff here, and it was a great time to be an SNL fan for sure.
Definitely. And there's a lot of really cool perks over at Patreon. And one of them that we have this summer is that if you're watching the countdown after the episodes, after we reveal them, we put up these episodes just for our patrons to watch for the week. So hopefully a lot of our supporters were able to check out 50, 49, 48, and 47 this week, so they have more perspective on the things we were talking about. And then after this episode we record here tonight, then we'll put up the next four that we reveal onto Patreon for all of you to watch throughout the next week. So that's really, really fun. Bill, I made a boo-boo last week, okay? I messed up. We ended the show a little early before we did something that we always do at the start of these countdowns. So that's my bad, everybody. Let's mea culpa. We're going to go through our predictions for the countdown. So Bill does know the four that are revealed tonight. He's not going to reveal anything before we get to it. But I always ask Bill to give me his predictions of which types of things we will see throughout the countdown. So you only know 8 of the 50. So a little bit more insight than normal. Maybe you'll do better than last year. But I'm going to ask you some questions, Bill, to see if you get these right. And we'll look back at the end of the countdown. So just a few of these to start the show. Bill Kenny, I'll start with you this one. We got 5 of them. Number 1, how many episodes in this countdown will be hosted by 5 timers? So a lot of 5 timers. They got brought up. They were very high in the host countdown. How many episodes do you think out of 50 will be hosted by 5 timers?
I'm going to say 10.
Okay. Demi, I'll ask you, over under 10 in this countdown, 5 timers out of 50 episodes. Here, you muted, so let's just make sure we can hear from you, Demi. How many over under 10?
2. No, 2. Yeah, I'm gonna say 2. 4.
You're saying 2 episodes are gonna be hosted by 5 timers?
And out of the 50 that we're looking at in this thing.
Yeah, the 50 we're looking at here.
I'm gonna say 11. I'm gonna say 11.
Okay, 11. All right, so you're gonna take the over. There you go. Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
All right,
These are sports things. I
okay, so basically, Bill's gonna give the number. You're gonna say, is it higher or lower than the number that he gives? So if you think it's gonna be more than 10, that's totally fine. And then the chat, I would love you if
that's
you could
what that means.
Yes, it's over under.
I've never known what that means.
Yeah, there you go. So now,
I just
now
say
you get it.
We're always teaching on the SNN.
Yeah, no problem. So Bill takes 10. Demi takes the over 10, and we have some people in the chat saying over as well. Some say a dozen, some say 11. Okay. All right. Bill, how many premieres will end up in the 50 episodes? So we already had the Michael Jordan premiere that we talked about. How many do you think we're going to get?
I'll say 5. 5 premieres.
So 5 premieres. Okay. Demi, more or less than 5 premieres you think will end up on this countdown?
No, I'm gonna say more.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say more, Bill.
That's fine.
Okay. Taking the over. All right. Bill, how many finales will end up on this countdown?
6.
6 finales. Okay. So we got 10 5-timer episodes, 5 premieres, 6 finales. Demi, over under 6 finales?
I'm gonna say under. I'm gonna say under on finales.
Under on finales. So less finales than we get premieres. That's okay. Bill, how many former cast members are going to have episodes on this list?
So like if Kristen had 2, that counts as 2. Is that what you're saying? Or
how many episodes hosted by former cast
episodes?
members?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say 13.
13. Okay. Wow. That's a big number. So 13 former cast members will end up, or their episodes will be 13 episodes will be hosted by former cast members is what we're saying here. Okay. Over under 13.
Over.
Oh, wow. All right.
With confidence over.
Okay. Interesting. All right. This is going to be, this will be fun to watch. Okay. Final question for you, Bill. Out of the 50 seasons, how many seasons will end up with episodes on this countdown?
31.
So 19 seasons will be left off the countdown is your prediction.
Yep.
Okay, Demi, over under 31
Under.
seasons.
Under.
Wow, okay.
I'm going under.
All right, under 31 seasons. That's very interesting. Okay, so we will keep track. We'll show how Bill is doing and his progress throughout the season. We're going to lock in these 5. Just a fun extra thing for us to follow throughout the countdown. And yeah, I love the guesses that are coming in the chat all over the 30s here. This is going to be very, very fun to reveal. All right. Bill, Demi, are you ready for our first reveal here tonight? We're going to go into number 46 on the countdown. So Bill said 31 seasons. So he must feel like we're going to be getting some episodes from the same season. And wouldn't you know it, for our episode here at number 46, we're going to head back to a season that we talked about just last week, season 17. This time with host Jerry Seinfeld and music from Annie Lennox. Season 17, episode 18, aired on April 18th, 1992. This is an episode that is, widely considered a fascinating one. People were very excited. This is like the height of Seinfeld mania. It's, towards the end of the third season of Seinfeld, as people are really starting to pick up on that show. And like I said, Seinfeld mania all around New York. It makes sense to finally get Jerry in to host. So, Bill, overall thoughts on Jerry Seinfeld's episode ending up here at 46?
I'm a huge fan of Jerry, and you're right. This is right as the beginning of Seinfeld mania, because the first 2 seasons of Seinfeld, they were shortened seasons. They weren't not sure if it was going to get picked up. So this is towards the end of the first really good season. We get the first full season. We get a lot of good episodes in this, and he's very well known at this point, even though the show hasn't reached the iconic status that it'll reach within a couple of years. But this is a big get. I feel like there's some comparisons. You said this is the 17. We got Jordan last week at the beginning of the height of his powers. Kind of the same thing with Seinfeld, right? Like, this is the beginning of his championship run. 4, 5, 6 are considered, really, really incredible seasons of Seinfeld, and you're getting him right at the cusp of that.
Yeah, I mean, I also go back to just previous in SNL history when we had Tom Hanks hosting earlier on, and he would do the stand-up guys, and they were voiced in sort of like the Jerry Seinfeld cadence. Like, he'd already become a huge stand-up, but the show itself becoming so mainstream, everyone knowing his name, him becoming one of the biggest celebrities in the world. Like, we're on the precipice of this right here in April of 1992, where everyone is watching Seinfeld. Demi, your thoughts overall on Jerry's episode coming in here at number 46?
Great. It does make sense that he was just beginning to like explode, because there was a lot of self-reference in the sketches, and so now it makes sense. It was like everyone had a Jerry impression, so he was definitely in like the. Cause I'm just trying to think like SNL timeline and TV timeline. Like, okay, but I was 10 years old, so I wasn't watching Seinfeld, and I was watching SNL, but I don't remember watching this particular episode, but I'm really glad I got to watch it for this. And Annie Lennox was such a treat. Oh my God, to hear that she's great. But so yeah, thumbs up overall for sure.
Yeah, Annie was fantastic in this in terms of music performances. I feel like when we're talking about bonus points for music, I definitely feel like Annie brought that here tonight. And there's a lot of great sketches to talk about. Now, this is the way that, Bill and I were talking about how we're going to go through these episodes. And I think that we nailed the format last week, which is that if we ever have a sketch or a moment that is so iconic, we will start there. Otherwise, we'll sort of go through the rundown and see what stands out here. I think there's a lot of amazing stuff in this episode. I don't know that there's one absolutely iconic moment. So I think that maybe it makes sense for this one to go start to finish. Now, that's not to say I don't love this episode, which we'll get into, but still, I think that would make the most sense for number 46. So let's start off at the cold open here. So we get a very interesting cold open right in the spring of 1992. So we're headed towards the 92 election. Bill Clinton's obviously becoming a thing. This is only the second time that Phil Hartman's going to play Clinton. It is the second Jerry Brown impression for Dana Carvey. Of course, there's like a lot of inside talk here. Used to date Linda Ronstadt, became like sort of a celebrity in California. But it's basically them discussing about, what off-limit debate topics they want to get into. So Bill, this cold open here, did it do anything for you?
Yeah, it's an interesting time because Clinton was not a slam dunk, going to win the primary. So there was still a chance that Jerry Brown. We get Paul Songas at the very end of this. He was more of an outlier, but so Clinton was starting to pick up momentum at this point. But he hadn't cinched everything yet. So, we could be very well sitting here talking about Dana's next presidential impression in a different world. But I like this. This is the second time we get Phil's Clinton. A lot of good jokes about both sides of their, past. Don't talk about the things they do. And of course, it devolves into ridiculousness about forest fires and crashing the Exxon Valdez and things like that. But, I think it had just come out about Jennifer Flowers and Clinton. So that was kind of on the forefront of everyone's mind. But yeah, we get some really good impressions here from Dana and Phil. It's always fun to see them playing a political sketch together.
Yeah, the whole like you want to swap wives thing. And, for me as a younger person, I obviously wasn't around for the, everything that was happening with Clinton at this time. But it is always amazing to me. We talk about things lost to history. It's always just fascinating for me to see how much of a dirty dog Clinton was this early on. Like, just to see him already, like it's only April of 92. Like, we're very far away from Lewinsky here. And to see the you want to swap wives things already happening in April of 92 is like a fascinating time capsule of this cold open. Demi, for you, any memories of what was happening here in this 92 election as we open up this episode?
Yeah, actually, I do. I remember the 92 election. We lived in California at the time, and I think my parents were actually helping out in the Jerry Brown campaign. So we were like very invested in if he was going to win or not. Plus, Paul Songas is Greek, and I'm Greek, so like we automatically just have a list running at all times. So I was like, oh my God, Paul Songas. I was like, oh, I haven't heard that name in forever. So I do remember, and I remember like Clinton was like supposed to be like this great hope of like, but it wasn't for certain yet. At first it was Jerry Brown. It's just crazy to see these SNL time capsules where it was everyone knew who it was at the time, I'm thinking, right? I mean, if you followed the news. So I was just like delighted and like alarmed that so much time had gone by, and it was almost like a relic. Like if Dana Carvey doing Bush in the beginning, or I don't think I could tell. Was he supposed to be Jerry Brown? Because I don't think or not
He
Bush.
was Jerry Brown.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Because I was like, this is a very unrefined Bush impression, but he's talking with the other Democrats because they're about to debate, I guess. So, yeah, it's crazy the names that were so relevant or like not. But that's why I love SNL.
It's really interesting. And it's great to see like Dana, playing a different, his political impressions are so well known. And it's great to see him doing something a little bit different here. I think it's very refreshing considering like he still does all of the impressions or characters that he always did. So getting to see like something different from Dana is always fun. The Seinfeld monologue for me, this is an all-time classic monologue. And it doesn't get tainted for me that this is sort of just directly ripped from a stand-up. I feel like I've seen him do this monologue. I don't know if it was on Seinfeld or in other stand-up pieces, but like it is so good. And every time, I don't fault it for the amount of times that he repeated it with the whole airplane issues and in doing like the air traffic controller and the whole combination of cops and garbage men. Like for me, this is something that is like as classic Jerry monologue as you can get. My fiance is like a huge Jerry Seinfeld buff, and like as soon as I showed her when I was watching the SNL episode for the first time, she was like, "Oh yeah, I've seen these Jerry jokes a million times." But still, they're so good that I think that this is one of the great stand-up monologues. Demi, when you rewatched it, did it work for you just as well?
Oh, absolutely. Seinfeld bits are like songs, like you just know them. David Spade did a podcast with Jerry at the beginning of the pandemic, and he told Spade, he's like, "Don't ever throw anything away. Like, keep it. If it works, keep it. You can always like incorporate it into your act. Like, if you have a bit that works, hold on to it." So, and then I've heard David Spade I've heard him like repeat jokes and repeat that mantra over and over again. So this is like the way he delivers it. I'm having the peanuts now. Such a big bag. Like we all know it. It's like a song. It's like, yeah, he's doing it. He's doing it. He's giving us what the people want. So I think it's all great. Even though I've heard those bits a million times as well. Shout out to your fiance. It was just like, it was just very soothing. it was delightful. I just thought it was delightful.
Yeah, it was great. And I think, Bill, this was the era in which Seinfeld would show stand-up at the start and end of their episodes. So I wouldn't be surprised if like there was themes, or at least these jokes were in one of the episodes. But again, still for me on Saturday Night Live, we get a lot of stand-ups in recent times. Stand-ups maybe a little bit more rare then. And I thought this was a fantastic monologue. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, the cop garbage man thing was actually a joke in one of the episodes. The only thing I've seen as much as SNL is Seinfeld. Have it on constantly in the background. It's something that never gets old for me. So yeah, he does a whole bit about grab a broom on a Seinfeld episode, and yeah, he did the stand up bits all the way through season 7 of Seinfeld. So he's still very much in the era of doing that. I love this. This is a different time. The only way you could see stand ups unless you went to see them was A&E had Night at the Improv and things like that they played late at night. So this wasn't something that you would have seen on YouTube or anything like that. So it was probably still fresh to people, even if they might have seen a joke or two in a Seinfeld bit. So I love this. This is just a fantastic way to start.
Yeah, it's a great way to start. And it's really a momentum starter for me because it transitions over to one of my favorite game show sketches that I think the show has ever done with Stand Up and Win, where it's all observational humor and everyone's trying to out stand up each other. And it's like such a great turn on like how to incorporate stand up into a sketch format. Like I know Seth's talked a lot about like, okay, well, the easiest thing sometimes for a sketch writer to do is like start in the game show and then work your way out to what you're trying to get to and fill in the blanks. But this to me was really great. This is a Robert Smigel and Sandler piece that they put together, and just the lines that are in here of like, why don't they build the whole plane out of the black box? Like things like that have, I think, become so classic from this sketch, where I talked about how the episode probably doesn't have that one iconic moment, but I think there's a lot of iconic lines and like almost like iconic mini moments from this episode. And this sketch to me is one of the all-time game show sketches, Bill. So your memories of Stand Up and Win.
Yeah, I wonder if they would have wanted to do this as a sequel to the stand-ups that you kind of referenced. But the fact that nobody was left other than Dana from those, Tom Hanks, Damon Wayans, Dennis Miller, Lovitz, from those episodes, because that would have been a great way to go. But maybe with so many people already having been gone, it didn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, there's a lot of great lines. Sandler not being able to figure out the way this works, and he just keeps saying who are the ad wizards who came up with this one, like Schneider killing it, which is ironic considering that he's not a great stand-up. Sorry.
Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider, yeah. Yeah, not John Schneider. John Schneider's the best stand-up I heard.
Oh, that's right.
But yeah, no, I really like this a lot. It runs 8.5 minutes, which is crazy even for a game show, especially in this era. But I don't think it lost its momentum. I think it was really good.
Yeah, it's so good because it almost like could be a real game show. Like it could be like, I could picture this between Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. Just it's so interesting and almost so stupid, but like it really is. It's I don't know if this makes sense to me. It's like almost a mix between stupid and smart. Like it's very smart.
Yes.
In the way that the writing is, but it's also really stupid in that like the most that Sandler can get out is who are the ad wizards that came up with this one. Like it has that perfect balance, and Smigel like hits on that sometimes. But how did you feel about Stand Up and Win?
Oh, it was absolutely a delight. But they were all doing Jerry impressions, is how I took it. They were all like, they're doing their version of a Jerry observational humor. And I was like, whoa, Seinfeld was like that embedded in the culture that maybe he's getting ripped on to his face. Like that's kind of how I read it. But I'm sorry. When Sandler would say his thing, that's still kind of funny. Like, who are the ad that came up? That's still kind of funny. But no, I what I loved was the very legible cue cards that they turned around and they were like, and it was like perfectly written, probably by Wally. That I loved that detail. Like they had it written out perfectly. Yeah, it was great. I thought they were all Jerry's. How could they not all? They were all Jerry's, right? Right?
Yeah, they definitely felt like they definitely are doing sort of like they're Jerry coded, I would say.
Okay.
But I don't know that they're doing Jerry impressions fully.
Okay.
But yeah, I just think that like this is almost a commentary on how Jerry's brand of stand-up comedy has taken over the stand-up world. Like, that's the way that I look at it.
Okay.
So much so that like observational humor is the thing that everyone starts thinking about. Like, you could basically observe anything and then be like, well, why does somebody do this? And like, that is the trend at the time. And I just really think that everything about this is really great. And then so is the next sketch. We get to this history class sketch where instead of Jerry in stand-up mode, he's in teacher mode as he's teaching almost the entire cast. Keep in mind, season 17, the biggest cast we've had up until this point. Almost the entire cast is here. We talked last week about the Mousetrap seminar sketch to see, you know, in this era, people sitting at a desk. I really like the format of this one. I think it's a great way to get the entire cast into a sketch without doing a parade. And it just takes the best versions of every cast member and puts them opposite Jerry, who is the perfect MC for this history class sketch as he's trying to teach them about World War II. Demi, did you enjoy history class as much as I did?
Oh, very much. And it was startling that it could be taught. It could be a sketch today, maybe, that people like don't remember history. You got to like pull it out of them. And Farley only had a couple lines, but they were great. They were great. And
yeah, the whole Farley, besides the snakes thing, and then he like puts his hand down slowly. It's just unbelievable.
Perfect.
It's so
perfect. And he's a very believable teacher. Like, he wasn't stilted. He did a good job with it. Like, he served the sketch without being like the center of attention. Like, he carried it pretty well without being a comedian, I thought.
Yeah, and it takes like really good writing to be able to take everyone's best strengths and put them in an episode where they don't, or a sketch where they don't overshadow each other. And I think that works really well here because you had someone like Jerry who basically goes from 2 segments, Bill, where he's over the top in his brand and then walks it back to be that sort of like straight man history class teacher who's just getting increasingly frustrated. And I love this one. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I love it too. And for all the kind of snipes at Jerry for especially early on his show that he couldn't act, you know, he was just, I think he shows a lot of good acting chops here playing this teacher. You mentioned the Mousetrap that we talked about last week. This is almost 2 seasons later, same chalkboard. You can see the same drawing on the, like, nobody could have grabbed a sponge and like wiped that thing down. But yeah, no, it really does play to the strengths of a lot of people. Ellen Cleghorn gets a couple good lines. Melanie Hutzel continuing to ask, you said the dates weren't going to be on this test. So yeah, we get some really good, especially from the newer cast members that are just kind of coming into this here. So yeah, I really enjoy this. The Raiders of the Lost Ark part was really fun too.
Yeah, and Siobhan Fallon was so good in this sketch. I know that she doesn't get a lot of shine, only there for, most of one season. We did a great interview with her a few years ago. She's really, really awesome. But I would think that she was so good in this sketch that maybe that's why Jerry ended up casting her on Seinfeld down the road, which she had a couple of really good parts opposite Elaine. So I thought this is one of her shining moments. So everyone is really good in history class. Annie Lennox, we mentioned before, and let's go to Weekend Update where we get the premiere of Opera Man here. So the first time we're going to get to see Adam Sandler as Opera Man. So that's definitely an epic moment here. You sort of get these tentpole moments for people. I think this is a huge moment for Adam Sandler's career, that he has this character that he isn't basically playing a version of himself like Crazy Spoonhead or like him doing different Halloween characters. He's actually doing something that's more character based, where he's going to sing the news, Bill. So this was a huge moment for SNL history to have Sandler here doing Opera Man for the first time.
So big, and you can tell from the non-reaction from the audience that they didn't know what was happening here. Obviously, as he plays this more and it becomes one of his most famous characters, you always get these huge rounds of applause. I don't know this first person he's talking about, Trump. I don't know whatever happened to that.
That was so weird to watch.
Oh my God, it's so weird. A terrible person 35 years ago and today. So no, this is really great. It really kind of shows Adam's range as far as being able to do something, is becoming the king of Weekend Update at this point. And I love everything about this.
Yeah, Demi, this was pretty epic getting to see Sandler's initial appearance as Opera Man.
Un momento.
There you go, guy.
Okay. Yeah, I remember watching this live. I mean, or maybe it was a rerun. I don't know. But I was a kid and I was like, "What's happening? Like, what's the joke?" The joke is just him singing, and then he was singing about Fergie's nipples, and I was like, "What's happening?" Because I remember from tabloid covers, I knew that was like a whole thing going on. And then he was singing it in a funny voice, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's the joke! Like, there's nothing that's the joke." I feel like I get it. I feel like I'm an adult. I feel like I get it. Like SNL is like SNL is like tree rings for me in my life. Like, where was I? What was I doing? What was going on? Did I get the joke or not? And like Adam Sandler doing Opera Man, I was like, oh, there's nothing to get. And he's just kind of capably singing about pop culture. That's scandalous a little bit. Oh, this is good. I like this. I was like, I don't know how is this happening? But it was like, how is this happening? Which is why I love SNL. Like, who approved this? Like, is this real? There's no pun. Like, that's it. So I actually didn't realize it was the premiere of Opera Man, but I was like, oh man, I remember like talking about melons and stuff. That was yes.
Yeah,
It was
it's
great.
so good. It's so good. And there's also, I remember like during SNL 40, just having Sandler come out at one point during the musical montage moments, like with Maya and Marty, where he does Opera Man, and it gave me chills. And I was like, oh yeah, like there is something about it that I think it is my favorite thing that Sandler does on the show is Opera Man. I really do love it. So post update, we get a Passover Seder sketch, and I have done Seders all of my life for Passover, and this was so funny and really works for me. For people who don't have Passover Seders, I'm curious if this works as well, but I'll say from my experience, opening the door for Elijah was something as a kid, like you just don't question these things. So you just like, you go through, like you read this, like you read the first part of the book, you have dinner, and you read the second part of the book. And then at one point you're supposed to open the door, and you're supposed to just like leave your front door open. And when I got older and then my fiance started joining me for Seder's, she was like, this is the creepiest thing ever. Like, I don't know why you guys do this. So, or like why people do this. And then to, in sketch form, to have Elijah be this actual creep as he comes in, starts making fun of Manischewitz, does the 4 questions, turns to Beth Cahill and asks, first question, are you a virgin? Then forget the 3 other questions, and just becoming like Jerry was fantastic in this. And again, like if you have the experience of something like this, it hits a lot of really funny notes. I thought Mike Myers was also great in this one. Anything you guys have on the Passover Seder sketch that you thought was interesting?
I growing up in a 95% Catholic area and living kind of in that bubble, SNL was always teaching me things like Hanukkah Harry and the Passover Seder. Playing the prophet as an ass is just so great, and Jerry is so great. Like, and how adorable is Beth Cahill? Like, she's all over this episode. She is so great, and she just never got the chance to really show what she could do on the show. And but this is a nice little moment for her as she runs out of the room away from Seinfeld.
Yeah, it's really good. And the 4 questions thing was basically the thing about the 4 questions is the youngest person at the table is supposed to say the 4 questions. So like that's also a fun, I guess, or a funny anecdote. But yeah, this was interesting. Then we get to the Lank Thompson, I'm a handsome man, or a handsome black man. In this case, this is the 3rd version of Mike Myers' character here, and he's really working on Tim Meadows. And this is actually a pretty big moment for Tim Meadows because we're still in the pre-95 version of Tim Meadows where he doesn't get a lot of shine on the show. But here he gets to really do his thing, basically work off of some of the other black performers on the show. We get to see Alan Cleghorn. We get to see Warren Hutcherson, one of the writers of the show. So it's like this fun moment for Tim Meadows. Demi, any thoughts on this one?
I'm just really glad it didn't devolve into blackface because I don't remember that sketch, and I was like, what's going to happen? Oh no, we're going to have to talk about this later. But it didn't, and I could tell by the audience reaction that maybe they weren't as excited to see Tim Meadows as they should be. But I'm glad that he really hammed it up. Like this sketch was like 95% ham.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It worked. It worked. Tim Meadows has a great smile. He's a very attractive black man. So
yeah.
So I guess it works.
Yeah, it definitely worked for sure for this sketch. And I think the Mike Myers, he does this handsome actor with Alec Baldwin at one point, and that's the one that I think most people do remember. So this is probably the one that gets lost to time a little bit. But I thought Tim was really good at holding his own across from Mike Myers, who'd become, sort of started to become like the real leader of the cast as we start to see Phil and Dana starting to go on their way out here in this era of the show. Permanent Positions is a sketch that comes up next, and this is like a sketch that you would probably only see in this era. But here's a sketch where basically everyone's like locked into a position at work and they cannot move, and it's sort of like an improv game a little bit of like how they're going to incorporate it into the sketch itself. And I love these creative things that they do sometimes in this era, Bill, that really work for me.
Yeah, it's very Python-esque. Everything about it is just, and them all having a position. And it seems when Phil comes in at the end, and he doesn't really have, but then of course he falls onto the couch and does it so perfectly as he leans backwards and doesn't lose. The greatness of Phil just comes through. Yeah, I really enjoy this one a lot.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Then we go to I'm Chillin', which is the Chris Rock and Chris Farley sketch, their duo that always, live from the projects, like always having some fun. They do some great stuff with the advertising here. Demi, any memories of I'm Chillin' seeing Chris Rock and Chris Farley together?
I don't remember watching it, but I remember watching it this time. Chris Rock had a really good set of bars, and so did Chris Farley. It's like, man, they would have been a great duo. I don't know what else they did together, but it was great. I mean, it was great.
Yeah, we talked about Nat X a little bit last week, where Farley had a role in that sketch a bit. But yeah, they could have been a great duo. Obviously, Chris Rock is like going to be not having as long of a career on the show as Farley, and will leave earlier on. Of course, in another alternate universe where we have Farley coming back for many more years and he's still around, I do think we would have seen this sketch again just because of having them as a duo. Like, you don't think of Chris Rock and Chris Farley as a natural duo on Saturday Night Live in history, but they do have these sketches, and I thought that the advertisers were really great here with the bullet hole tampons, and the Malcolm X, I think, was the movie that was really popular at the time, so they're giving out O hats to people to play tic-tac-toe with. Some great stuff there, but I want to talk about this last sketch of the night. To me, this is one of, in a night that was already fantastic, we get this final sketch of the night that I think is so good. This is one that, like, I think should be on specials, should be on reels, and it should be shown to like future generations as to like things that you can do that are a little different. And Demi, I see you nodding your head, so I'm gonna head right there to you. But we get the Lenny Wise show, which is Phil Hartman on his radio talk show interviewing Superman. And everybody, if you're a fan of Jerry Seinfeld, you know how much he loves Superman. So this to him, like, to get to play him on the show, really cool, sort of inside baseball aspect of this. But he plays him as Superman, and he's being asked questions on the radio show. They take in callers, but the whole thing is done so casually that there's no big deal about Superman being there, just talking to him about kryptonite and all the things, Lex Luthor and all of that. And just the whole format, Phil opposite Jerry, like, to me, it is so brilliant. Demi, let's talk about it.
I'm so glad you brought it up, John, with such high esteem, because I was watching it. I was like, wow, like Phil Hartman, just the way he asked Jerry questions, or Superman, I'm sorry, about like, how much kryptonite would it take to kill you? Like, are you afraid of kryptonite? Like, when you leave the house, like, do you think about kryptonite leaving? Just the way he was asking, I cannot do it, but just the way he was asking the question so seriously, with like such an investigative air, and he was like, well, I mean, I guess I would want this, like trying to keep it the comic book. And Phil Hartman's like trying to establish new canon inadvertently. It was so well done. Like and Jerry was somehow a perfect foil. I don't know how you can be a foil with a straight man with a Superman costume on, but he did opposite Phil. And I agree, John. And I'm so glad you're bringing it up, because I was like, this is a 10-1 chef's kiss.
Yeah, this is one of those later era Phil Hartman brilliant sketches, the way that he just carries this whole thing. Bill, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, this is the predecessor to podcast, right? This is AM talk radio. It's something that, in the 90s, it kind of moved more into the sports talk realm, where you would have these call-in shows. But yeah, it's a great character for Phil. Does it bother you that you can't look through lead? Like, that's just a lot of great lines here. I love the call in about why Superman didn't do more during the garbage strike. And what did you want me to do? You could have cleaned it all up in 5 minutes. So you're always getting wackos calling into these talk radio shows. So yeah, this is great, and it's great to see these two play off of each other. They get to work on news radio together for a couple episodes, or later on in the 90s. But it's great to see these two titans working together.
Yeah, and it was just that it was so subtle, everything they were saying, that in like later years or later eras, they would have to make this more over the top. Like at some point, some Superman enemy would have to come through the wall and attack him. Like, but they don't do that here. They keep him at the desk, sitting there talking to Phil, just this like casual small radio show. And it's just like, for me, it is what I look for from this show. And I loved every minute of it. And I just have to say, like, if you haven't gotten the vibe through our conversation about this episode, to me, this is one of my favorite episodes of all time. I think that this, for me, if I was making my top 50 list from scratch, I think this could easily be in my top 25. I think that there are no duds in this episode. And it's very rare where you find an SNL episode where something doesn't dip. Like, I think you can argue the momentum or the high of like some of the stuff at the beginning of the episode doesn't carry through post update, but I think everything is super solid. And I interviewed Jerry Seinfeld on the SNL 50 red carpet, and I said to him, I said, the first episode you hosted was one of the greatest episodes of all time, and I am putting my foot down on that after rewatching it again, that I truly feel that. For me, Bill, one of the more fascinating things about this episode is there is no pre-taped material in this episode at all. And I do love pre-tapes, and there's so many eras where I think the pre-tapes are so fantastic, but there's none here. And I wonder if this, if I am looking at the end of this list, this could be the highest episode possibly that I do have on the list. And I don't know how many in the history of the show don't have any pre-tapes, but this could be the highest one that doesn't have anything. And that's maybe the charm to it in a way. But your overall thoughts on it landing here at 46, too low, too high? How are you feeling overall?
This feels about right. As you said, like, there's no duds, and it's consistent from beginning to end. Now, it does kind of take out the criteria of having one Boom Stam classic sketch that I thought would be part of the greatest episodes, top 50. But I don't take points off for that. I think this lands right around the right spot for me. Jerry shows that he can play in this world, and he has another good episode a few years later, but I think this one is an all-timer.
Yeah, Demi, how are you feeling about this one overall?
Oh, so great. And yeah, I'm so glad I got to watch it for this. And Jared in the chat was asking about Annie Lennox. Annie Lennox did Why? And then she did Legend in My Living Room, which I'd never heard before, but her performance was so good, I didn't skip it. I was like, I'm going to watch this. And she's great. She's great. Great voice. Just, yeah, I agree. I agree with the all-timer. Like, it was a solid top to bottom. And I appreciate you telling that anecdote about the Seder, because I've been to one Seder, and I think we got drunk on Manischewitz, and I don't remember, like, the end. But I was like a freshman. So I really appreciate that, John, that it landed that solidly for you, because I was like, oh, someone else will really like this. So I'm glad to hear it worked out.
Do you know that we cannot get Manischewitz up here in Canada right now because of the whole, stuff that's going on with the tariffs? They're not buying American alcohol and bringing it up here. So because of that, it's very hard to find.
Do you want me to drive up, John?
Yeah, please. I would appreciate you.
Smuggle some Manischewitz in, like high school.
Yeah. So missing that American bourbon right now. All right, let's keep going. It's all good. This too shall pass. Let's move on from number 46 for our second reveal here of the night. We're going to move slightly forward in time from season 17 all the way through to season 26, where we're going to get not the 500th episode of SNL, but the 499th, hosted by Conan O'Brien, with music from Don Henley, from March 10th, 2001. This is the only time Conan hosts the show. People have been clamoring for him to come back, as he is such a fantastic host, and clearly, should have come back a long, long time ago. But I'm so excited to talk about this episode in particular. And Demi, that is the reason you are with us here tonight, because you said I need to talk about this Conan episode.
Always. Yes. What do you want to talk about? He's great. Well,
I want to know overall, how do you feel about it?
Oh, I mean, it actually gets funnier, because I love Conan so much. I almost like cringe whenever he does anything. I'm like, oh God, I hope it goes well, because I love him. But like it just gets funnier. Like I watched it again, and Molecular Man is funnier. Like the third time is funnier. Have Some Good Time, which is a podcast reference from Conan's Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. Amazing, great. Conan is whatever the baseball analogy is, whatever the hitter is that will hit it out of the park every time. That's Conan. Who would that be? Don Mattingly?
Bill, you're the baseball guy, so
The
Derek
cleanup
Jeter?
hitter.
Yeah. Well,
You want a player
Derek
comparison?
Jeter. Like Derek Jeter? He's a
Yeah,
hitter, right?
that'll work. Yeah, that'll
yes,
work.
yes,
Yeah.
All right.
That'll
then
work.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, this is a really fun episode. This is definitely one that I think people go back to a lot as, like, oh, do you remember when Conan hosted? Like Secrets, it's a lot of hidden gems there. Bill, how do you feel about it overall coming in here at 45?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about this on the host countdown last year, and he was one of the better one-time hosts that we got to talk about, up there with Richard and Betty White. This is great. He's at the height of his powers. We talked about Seinfeld being at the height of his powers. Conan's huge. Like this is 6 or 7 years into his show, and he's really from humble beginnings on late night to what he became at the beginning of the millennium. This was great to have him come back to the show after he was a writer. It's really the first writer to come back, and I guess Father Guido, if you want to be technical, right? But as far as like pure SNL writer, he's the first one to really get a chance to host, right, John? I can't think of anybody else that you would put in that category. I mean,
No, I think we got him, Larry David, and Mulaney, and then Novello.
That's it. Yeah.
But Novello sort of hosting character,
and he hosted in character, right? So yeah, I love this episode. This was so great to go back, even though I watched it last summer. It was fun to watch this one beginning to end again. So I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about it in a second. And you reminded me of Larry David, which is I meant to mention the anecdote before that Larry David wrote that Seinfeld sketch with Jerry, the Superman sketch, excuse me, the one that was at the end of the episode. So
I was going to ask you because it does show in the credits. I was wondering, Larry Charles too?
I think
because he's in the credits too.
I think that must have been it. Yeah. So that Jerry came into that episode with that sketch. So it was great stuff. All right. So let's talk about this one. So we did have this conversation a little bit last season when we did these countdown. So, we talk more from a host perspective, but I definitely want to talk about this from the episode perspective because everyone loves Conan, but does the episode itself deserve to be a classic and at 45 on this spot? So we're going to open up with a presidential address. So we're right in the midst of the, still Will Ferrell as George Bush. Here he's talking about Dick Cheney going to the hospital with some heart stuff. We do get, in my opinion, what is a classic line from this sketch. I think it's it's a sketch that most people don't remember, but the line itself that he works 24/7, which is 24 hours a week, 7 months a year. And that is something that I think has been repeated forever, Bill.
Yes. Yeah. That's on every presidential clip that we get from SNL. We're right at the beginning of the Bush presidency, and the jokes have already started about him not actually being in charge, that Cheney's in charge. Cheney had some kind of medical episode earlier in the week. So that's the whole basis upon this. So it's a lot of fun to go back and watch Will at his absolute best. He's so good at the W impression. And if we had to live through 8 years of it, at least we had Will doing it for the first couple of years. So love this.
Yeah, we're still in the golden age of Bush impressions on the show here in March of 2001. Demi, any thoughts getting to revisit Will Ferrell as George Bush?
This is the tender time. This is 6 months before 9/11, so we could all make fun of presidents, and everything was great. Everything was great, obviously. But I have 2 words. That is frequent catnaps. That's it.
Yeah, so good. And then we'll go to Conan's monologue. And, it really does feel like, again, I mentioned this is the 499th episode of SNL. I've always felt like this was a huge mistake not to have him for the 500th episode of SNL, because I think that would have been really fun getting sort of the first ever writer to come back and host. But he comes and talks about the small parts that he used to have about being with a writer. And he takes us on a monologue journey that I think we really only get in the 70s. And we're going to get it again here with Conan, as he's going to walk down to his studio. He'll pick up Tracy Morgan, some Japanese tourists, some people working on a dead guy or an almost dead guy, and then he'll go into his studio and you'll see Max Weinberg having sex on his desk in his studio, and then ends up introducing the show and basically saying, "We have a great show for you tonight. Don Henley's here. Stick around. We'll be right back." Not from home base stage. It's so utterly unique, and one of those monologues that I think most people don't remember, but if you go and you watch a show, you're like, oh, this could be an all-time classic monologue, Demi.
Oh yeah. And for the record, this was pre-String Dance Conan. Like, I know everyone associates String Dance, but this is before. He wasn't doing that then. Yeah, you can see he almost goes into late night mode when he's at his desk. He's like, "Stick around, we got a great show tonight," because he said that every night. And I think he's like, "Oh, I'm on SNL, it's a little bit different." But a walk through the studios, and like his mother, that is not his mother. Famously, he never had his real parents on, but his parents were in like so many sketches on his show. I'm pretty sure he wanted to have horses and like ladies in burlesque outfits in the back, but they probably like, "We can't do that. They're not." But he probably would have wanted that. No, it was great. Like, gets to stride through the studio and have some ownership. It was great. Absolutely great. Great use of the space.
Yeah, Bill, I remember talking to you last year about this monologue and just how great it was and how people like don't talk about it enough.
Yeah, the technical part of it is fascinating to me because, as you said, this is not something they really attempt a lot. To walk down 2 sets of stairs to his studio. I love that part of it. I love seeing those hallways and wonder how it must be, even to this day when they would call Fred up or Seth to come up and do a cameo. I mean, all they got to do is walk up a couple flights. So love that part of it. I love the XFL reference before he goes downstairs. Famously, the XFL was this horrible idea by NBC and Vince McMahon to do football after the NFL season, and SNL was preempted constantly. I think this episode started a little bit late too, if I remember correctly, but I'm not positive on that. But there were at least a few episodes that did start a few minutes late because of Saturday Night Football with XFL. So the Orlando Rage, Las Vegas Outlaws is a moment in 2001 time.
So this one started on time. It was J-Lo's episode from a month earlier, February 10th, that started at 12:14 a.m. And I think that is the one that famously Lorne ends up calling Vince McMahon and just giving him like the ringer and being like, no more of this. And that's the only one besides the Rob Lowe premiere that started late. So yeah, it was a different time where we have episodes starting late. But yeah, this is it's definitely something, and it makes sense given the time. So great monologue here. We get a very weird commercial, especially in retrospect, where we get to see Jared Fogle impression right off the bat. And it's basically a Subway commercial called Sub Shack, where instead they're eating to get fatter instead of trying to get skinnier with a diet. There's not much here, right? This one's probably a dud to time.
No, because the thing was that these commercials were everywhere, and this whole idea that this dude lost 300 pounds by eating Subway every day was ludicrous. But you couldn't get away from these commercials, and obviously he became a huge star, and then everything that happened afterwards. But this is a few years before that was known. So no, I think at the time this one hit. Maybe having that kind of fat makeup wouldn't work today, but yeah, I think it is of the moment, so I don't think it's terrible.
Yeah, and it would be 7 years later that Jared Fogle will actually make an appearance on SNL in that Michael Phelps episode. So, yeah, it's the timeline is weird when it comes to that guy, but this doesn't age the best. Boston Teens is up next. So I'm a big fan of the Boston Teens sketches. Always just really enjoy what they have going on there. This time we get Conan in a Boston Teens sketch, and it's really perfect, right? Because Conan, born in Massachusetts, so you got to definitely get him in one of those sketches. And we get to learn here that Denise actually hooked up with Conan's character, who's playing Eric. Sully goes to get them beers, and we actually get a Ben Affleck cameo in this one. Ben Affleck, at the height of his powers, had previously only hosted once, and was a great host. And I think people are very excited to see another Boston guy coming on in there. So fun Boston teen sketch, Demi, here.
Oh yeah, and like I'm not gonna lie, like a small part of me is like, oh, Conan hooked up with Denise. Like I'm a little bit like jealous and a little bit disappointed. I'm like, oh no, like, but it's not real. But played very well. It's just like a satisfying Snickers bar. It's like yes, it's like everything you want, layers of it. It's like Rocky Road ice cream. Actually, it's got everything. Everything is well done, and yeah, Conan really shoveling on a thick Boston accent, talking about Bia is never not funny. So yeah, I loved it. It's great,
Yeah.
all of it.
There were a lot of Boston teen sketches, Bill. Does this one stand out to you out of all of them?
Yeah, I think this would probably be right below the Britney Spears one for me. I think the whole milkmaid thing and her on that farm was probably the funniest overall Boston teen sketch. But this is up there, and Conan really brings it here. I think Rachel is just doing a phenomenal job trying to buy the beer and showing the fake ID. Clearly not Evelyn Chang is a great line by Rachel. And yeah, Affleck, it's funny to think about. He talk about forgotten the time. He was really on a run here in the early 2000s with SNL. So you can hear it from the audience reaction, how excited they are to see him. But we don't get a Tommy, did you get that? Which is strange.
Yeah, that's true. It's a little bit less Jimmy focused in this one, I would say, and more Rachel focused, which is, I mean, again, these sketches came from Rachel and Tina, and they ended up including Jimmy in it and built a character around him. But Jimmy sort of takes the focus a lot of times in the sketches, especially with all the no-ma stuff like that. But we don't really get that in this one. So it has a bit of a different vibe to it. And then, Affleck, I mean, that's a guy who I said should have been in the top 50 countdown for host last year and did not make it. Let's turn over to this next sketch. This is Moleculo, and this is the one that Demi referenced earlier. And this is probably the sketch in this episode that most people remember. We get basically it is similar to, we just talked about a superhero sketch with Seinfeld. He is playing a superhero here, and every single time someone says Moleculo, he is forced to come into frame and yell the molecular man. And because he does this, he gives away his identity throughout the sketch. And this is, I think, is something that was repeated by so many people after watching this episode. Demi.
That's fact. The molecular. Yeah, it's just. I mean, this is like Conan's version of Superman. Like men want to be superheroes on SNL. It's like this. Think it's funny, but yeah, it gets funnier. Like, oh no, that's cringe. And like, oh no, that's funny. That's even funnier. Oh, it's getting even funnier. Because it's almost like a reverse record scratch. Like he's making the record scratch, but he keeps saying it. Like he's the one driving it, like to his own demise. It gets progressively funnier because he keeps saying it. And people keep stopping him. He's like, oh yeah, and he has to check himself and remind himself not to say it. Yeah, no, everything about it is great, and it gets funnier on repeat. So if you haven't seen it lately, like find it again and watch it because it just gets funnier. It's just like a fine wine. Yes.
Yeah. This is one that I would think, Bill, had they done right by Conan, and obviously, he would eventually go on to have some problems with NBC, but had they done right by him and him been back so many times, I think we're getting Moleculo sketches more than once.
100%. This is great from start to finish. Not only Conan's ability here, which is fantastic, but everybody brings it. Parnes and Jerry Minor as the cops by the third or fourth time that Conan looks in the camera and says, the molecular man. You've got, Parnes is like, okay, buddy, we get it. Like, everybody just has that moment. And, it really is interesting to think about Superman. I'm a huge Superman fan. But the fact that he fooled everybody by just putting on a pair of glasses is so ludicrous. So I love that they kind of took that on here. They're not the first ones to do it. They won't be the last, but this is just a perfect spoof of these superheroes. Yeah, Conan's just does a great job here.
Yeah, and it has a bit of Conan stupid humor that he just decides to go to Mexico and do the same thing over again at the end, and like there's just like no other layer to it besides that he gives himself up in Spanish. It is It is really, really funny. We'll then go to a parade sketch where Conan's going to play Right Said Fred, and we're going to see some washed up singers from the 80s and 90s. This definitely took me to a time and place because I remember very well the whole Napster controversy and LimeWire eventually and all the music. I mean, I'm a huge music buff, so for me, downloading music and that getting on the internet, this is definitely a time capsule moment. I don't think there's anything too crazy here unless one of you liked one of the impressions.
Yeah, I mean the oh, go ahead, Debbie.
No.
No, this is these singers were way past their prime even in 2001.
Yeah.
So it's really funny. I love Tracy's cameo.
Word Up,
and that's the only song they're known for. So that's all he can say. I love that part of it for sure.
Yeah, Debbie.
I just want to point out that Conan's not wearing a shirt here, and he's not wearing a shirt in the Sports of the Century. I was like, I just think I was like, for like, he plays so insecure all the time, but like his shirt's off in 2 sketches. Like, I'm very confused still how I feel about that with my inside. So I'm just like saying it out loud to process it. But his shirt's off in 2 of the sketches. Like, what's happening?
So you're saying that makes this episode greater for you?
I will say that, yes.
That's fair. All right.
The chat gets it, by the way. The chat gets it. The chat.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, as our chat knows, I'm not a huge fan of parade sketches. So, I mean, this was cute, but there's nothing too special here. Don Henley, it was good. Then, yes, Bill, you got something on Henley?
Yeah, I think this was a big get. I mean, it's obviously not equal to the Beatles, but they never got the Eagles on SNL. This is the second time Henley comes on, and he plays a couple of good songs. He plays an old one, Matter, excuse me. But the album that he released, a little bit of Bill lore for you. He doesn't play the song here, but "Taking You Home" is the most famous song from this album, and that was my wedding song. So,
oh wow, great anecdote there. That's really cute. All right, well, we're gonna get to Weekend Update, where we get one of the rare weekend updates in the history of the show with no correspondence. So this is just Tina and Jimmy here, and I'll have to say, I mean, look, I think that we're probably still at the point here where Tina is really, really strong and Jimmy's still figuring it out. But I will probably dock the episode slightly for not having a correspondent here that I think was like added something to it. Like, I think, if we're just trying to, I said, it's going to be hard to parse through great episodes. I think that's something that is missing for me from this one, which is that they didn't have anything good enough to get onto Weekend Update. So just a note there, as we'll talk about our final thoughts after, we will get a post update sketch that I think is like really in the superfan community is probably referenced a lot. The No Taint sketch, where it is just like the weirdest, most random humor of Horatio Sands, like needing to drive to like another city to go to McDonald's, to get to the good McDonald's, to drive back in like the speed that it doesn't actually take. And he gets into a car accident where he wakes up in a hospital and Anna Gasteyer like tells him that he's been like kidnapped, only for him to be like, oh, just doctor humor. And then he actually finds out that he's perfectly fine, except his taint has been removed. So this is, and he obviously finds out what happens or where the taint was located on his body and that he does not have it anymore. And it is just really so descriptive and so random. Demi, is this a memorable moment for you? Demi, we got you. I can go to Bill in the meantime. Let me head over to Bill and ask you, Bill, what you thought of.
Yeah, what happened to my fleshy fun bridge? Yeah, this is so bizarre. Molecular gets all the pub, and rightfully so. But this is so delightfully bizarre. The way that Conan pronounces the name, it can't say Brown, Baranwa. The whole thing about Hill Street Blues cereal, and was there a Hill Street Blues cereal? Just so many great references in here that, none of it makes sense. I really, really enjoy this. And as you said, the whole setup to it, that he had to go to a McDonald's because the one across the street just isn't good enough. Love this one.
Yeah. Demi, do we got you to talk about No Taint?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Do we know who wrote this? Because it's such an aggressively like.
This is an Adam McKay sketch.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting. Because it's so aggressively like dirty. It reeks of Reformed Catholic repression, if that makes sense. So I thought maybe Conan had had a bit in it because it was like really going for it, and it's great because Conan's an angry doctor, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. It is after Weekend Update, having no correspondence tainted the episode. I was very happy to get this sketch afterwards. And then we're gonna move to a live action TV funhouse, which is very weird. A Smigel sketch called Find the Black People at the Knicks Game, where it's essentially like, I don't know if he's ever talked about how this came together, but it is sort of a bizarre sketch of like, it almost feels that they didn't have anything that week, or what he put together didn't work, so that he like ended up just filming Tracy and Horatio at a Knicks game. But it is like so weird, I guess. Bill, like, am I missing something here?
Yeah, I mean, you never knew what you were going to get when TV Funhouse opened, but the fact that it's not animated, it doesn't make a lot of sense because, I don't think there's a problem with African American people being at a Knicks game. Maybe this one was in particular kind of stood out. I mean, obviously the joke is they get to the court and the circles start popping up quickly as it goes on the players, and then the ending with Tracy and Horatio sitting in the stands. So yeah, it might have been like a Thursday night and like, go out and film something, see what we can put together here. And yeah, it does feel thrown together for sure.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting one. And then we have this VH1 Divathon sketch where very early in the Maya Rudolph career, but Maya sort of opens up this sketch and introducing Anna Gasteier's Deandra Wells, who is this diva band leader who's performing, and just the whole band is getting very pissed off, culminating in Will Ferrell and the other band members and eventually Conan just yelling at Anna's character. I think it's the second of two of these that we get to see on the show here. So, sort of like, there's a lot of things I love from Anna. This is probably not one of them, but it is weird in retrospect to see Maya not as the diva here, knowing what she would end up playing on the show. So it is an interesting one. Then we have this message from Mark Rich, which is a Chris Kattan impression, basically a very quick, like, direct to camera, talking about how he can afford to take tax cuts because he doesn't pay them. So sort of a political message of the time. And we'll get back to Don Henley and then eventually end on this one, which I want to talk to you about, guys, about the Sports Century sketch, which I think is another sketch that people do remember from this episode, where Conan's going to play James the Gentleman Masher Corcoran, who's a guy who basically does not know how to box and just continues to put his fists up in the air until ultimately he faces Jerry Minor, who just destroys him in this one. So, Demi, your thoughts on the final sketch of the night here with Conan?
Again, shirts off. Yeah, this is like Conan's, like, he would do this pantomime like constantly, like at the old timey fighters. See, so it was like, this is like fantasy land for Conan. Like, he gets to like live out situations that he would talk about in his monologue all the time. I'm so glad you know who wrote the sketches, John. But do you know who wrote this one? Do you know?
This is a Hugh Fink sketch.
Oh, well, he must have collaborated with Conan a little bit, because this is like, this is it's everything Conan said would happen 100 times before happening, with makeup and lighting. And Jerry Minor, I don't remember him at all, so I'm glad he's in the sketch. So he's resurrected in the pantheon for me. Two thumbs up.
Definitely.
Great.
Bill, does this last sketch of the night do anything for you? I definitely enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoy it. These sports centuries, they started at the end of the century on ESPN, and they were very well made for the time. I think they covered kind of the top 100 athletes in the century. So this is a couple years after that would have kind of come to its end. But I do enjoy this. And it's kind of like, John, when we talked about last week with the Jordan episode, where Jordan was the first African-American player and kind of destroyed all the white people playing Harlem Globetrotter basketball. Same kind of concept here, where, he was great until African-Americans were allowed to box 2 years later. And all of a sudden he lost 60. How many did he lose in a row? 247 in a row. So that's really funny. I think we talked a little bit about this during the Quinta episode, where she kind of did an old-timey boxer. So it's fun to see these. I don't think boxing is as relevant today as it was even in 2001, but it is fun to see, and Conan is great in this.
Yeah, he is very good. And so let's talk about this episode overall, coming in here at 45. I'm definitely not surprised this episode made the top 50 countdown. I think that there is obviously this huge stand-in for Conan, and people love him. And I think, as far as talking about him as one of the greatest hosts in SNL history, definitely on a one-time episode, like absolutely well deserving. I think after rewatching this episode, I feel like he's a better host than this was an episode. Like, I think that there are, like, I want to make that distinction here when we encounter episodes like this, in which, like David Allen Greer, like, I think that he definitely elevates some stuff here. And there's a couple of really good sketches, Moleculo, No Taint, I think Sports Entry, like, very solid. But I just think that, like, the power of Conan really makes this episode look good. But I don't know that this, to me, as just an episode, totally tracks as like one of the greatest of all time. Am I shattering your dreams here, Demi, or does that make sense?
No, that absolutely makes sense. I'm delighted whenever I see Conan on a list because I still think Conan's just mine. So I'm like other people, like, I'm always surprised by it and very happy. But it is because of like he's such a powerhouse and he's such a Derek Jeter that he can just go in there and just like own it. And yeah, I do agree with the distinction. Like there is a reason he made greatest host and now greatest episode. Like I'm really Conan biased. So I'm like it's all great. But I think that's a very fine distinction that I agree with. That he overshadowed the episode itself and as a host. But
yeah, because if we're doing like top 50 episodes that you would recommend somebody to watch from SNL history, I think that this cracks the list. But I think if we're just talking about greatest episodes from the history of the show, which can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but me has the legacy points to it, also has consistent run of sketches that I think are really high and some epic moments. I just don't know that it checks all the boxes for me, Bill, from what I'm looking for to crack near the top of my list as we're trying to parse through these.
This is a hard one to kind of distinguish because it does have the classic sketch. It does have the Moleculo, but it does have a couple of questionable. Weekend Update is like 5 minutes long. As you said, no correspondence, not a lot to point to. TV Funhouse, one of the weaker ones we get of that. And, the message from Mark Rich, while it's short, is kind of a dud. So I don't know, like this... I don't want to keep saying like top 75 as opposed to top 50, but I feel like this would just be on the cusp for me. He elevates so much of this. So you got to give him a lot of points for that. Got to give points for the cold open with Will as W. One of the best monologues that we get in modern times for sure. So TBD as far as where I think this should land. But yeah, it might lose some points.
No doubt this episode is way above average. I just, again, we're talking about the best of the best here and trying to find the differences between some of the episodes we're talking about. This doesn't have this has the Conan fun bump. I don't know that it has the momentum of an all-time classic episode as I watch through this, though I think it's one of the best one-time hosted episodes in the history of the show and one of the best hosts in the history of the show, no doubt. So those are all things that I think we could agree on here. So it'll be interesting to see where Bill and I place these on our list as we move forward. So let's talk about the next one. So Demi, we're going to go from an episode hosted by one of your favorites of all time to one of my favorites of all time. So let's talk about here. We're going to move forward in time again to episode 740 of the show from season 38 and March of 2013. So 12 years later, as we talk about Justin Timberlake's Five Timers episode here at number 44. So Justin Timberlake will be very interesting to see how many of his episodes end up on the countdown here and how people distinguish between those episodes, because Justin, as we talked about, a top 3 host of all time last season, has very similar episodes. There's a format, there's a formula for Justin as he comes into the building and coming in for this 5th time here. I remember the excitement I had about we're sort of moving out of the era that JT was best known for. So it's interesting to see who may pop up here. Will they do something epic for JT's 5-time episode? And there's 2 moments here that I feel like are all-time iconic moments. The question is do these iconic moments make the rest of the episode worthy of being in the top 50? So let's talk about that. And I want to start there, and then we'll go back and we'll talk through everything in order. But let's talk about this monologue. because for the first time since Tom Hanks's monologue in 1990, we get a Five Timers Club, which was very exciting. If you are a fan of the show and have been following all the way through to 2013, it's very fulfilling as we see JT walk into the club. We get to see Paul Simon, Steve Martin, Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, Marty Short, Alec Baldwin, Tom Hanks, and Candice Bergen all here. And it is just like, I remember watching it and being like, this is the coolest thing ever that I'm getting to see this for the first time. It really felt like, Bill, it was a whole other generation later. And now they were getting to experience something like this. And of course, this has been done many times since, at least versions of this. So it feels a little bit less special. But at the time, this certainly felt that way. So thoughts on the monologue here, this big epic Five Timers Club monologue from JT?
At the time, for sure, felt epic because, now it's almost expected in some form that we'll get a five-timer sketch when a five-timer comes in. And, mileage may vary as we move on in time, and some of them are better than others. But this is really big. Like Paul Simon back on the show has a couple of great lines with JT to start with. Last time we see Aykroyd and Chevy in a canonical episode of SNL, which is kind of bittersweet to look back on. They're both still with us. And I think Chevy does great here. The whole phone bit, playing all the way back to season 1 with what he did with the phone, the Three Amigos jokes. Like I won't take it all. I'll leave some for Demi here. But this is just great. One of the best hosts of this century, of the last 25 years, and he really gets his proper diligence here.
Yeah, and it just showed like they had many five timers since Hanks, and they did this for Justin because Justin grew up as such a huge fan of Saturday Night Live and had come over and basically like been that generation's host. That this to me was like a love letter to him. The fact that they were able to get all these guys who wanted to show up for his episode. Demi, your thoughts on this epic monologue we get here from Timberlake?
Oh my God. Oh, it was so great. I was like, and again, what is it? He's Elton John doing a funeral for Hugo Chavez, talking about his parrot. Was that the thing? He's actually
yes,
playing
that was
piano.
right after the cold. Obviously,
cold open. Cold. We're doing the cold open first.
Let's do the monologue first and then we'll go back to the cold open because I think it's just something that everybody wants to talk about. So I want to make sure that we talk about this Five Timers monologue.
It was just okay. No, I mean it was just layers on layers of like SNL, like amazingness, like stacked up, like a 7-layer cake. Like oh my God, this is all happening. Everyone looks great. Everyone's hitting their marks. Everyone is like putting the jacket on, and there's so much electricity in the air with everybody. With like when they start coming out and like zooming out, and like Paul Simon has a really great line about, I forget what it was, but it was something about his seniority with something. But then he made up for it. I was just shocked by how much effort they put into it and how effortless it came out. I was like, wow, they really went all out for this, and it came off so naturally. This episode honestly should be higher, if you ask me. I know like I'm skipping to the end of this, but this was just what are we talking about? The monologue or the cold open? The cold open is
we'll talk about the monologue here. So okay. So I think that's interesting what you're saying, Demi, because I think that it sort of depends how much you value moments as impacting episodes. Because I think this is one of the most important moments. I think that this is, they had already, done the show within a show thing but this is sort of like bringing it back to modern days of like, we're going to celebrate the history of the show. And it's interesting because Timberlake, like he will do a couple more appearances on the show after this, but he's sort of like ending his run here. And like I said, I think it's a culmination of just his, celebrating his time at the show over the previous 10 years and how much of an impact he made on it.
Yeah. It wasn't the cold open of the monologue, I guess, but I was watching. I was like, how do I not remember? Because I was watching it from the stop to beginning to end. And I was like, how do I not remember this? Like, where was I? What year was this? What schedule was I on? Okay, I watched it, but I didn't remember it until Taron Killam and Bobby Moynihan come out and wrestling for a part. And I was like, oh, I remembered it. Like SNL meta in jokes about getting screen time. I don't know if that's what it was. And I was like, oh my God, I don't remember the other gigantic cameos, but I remember that. And then I just stopped taking notes for this episode. I was like, oh my God, all of this is great. But Yeah, I'm so
Yeah,
glad
the
I got
whole
to
like I
watch
killed
it.
my friend. There's just so much here, and Bobby's so good in this. And you know what, like Bill, I love that you mentioned Chevy and Aykroyd because I think that Chevy is past his prime, to be fair to him here, but he does do a really solid job. I think he's really like he doesn't seem he's standing with Marty and Steve, who are obviously like two of the more epic performers that have ever been on the show. And I think that he still has it. And I also think Danny is really good. I mean, we'll talk about him more in just a little bit, but he's also really good as the bartender. We get to see his Crystal Head vodka on the top shelf. He serves a Kristen Wiig Gilly drink to JT. There's just a lot of things here that I think honor the original version of this sketch and then also make new ground.
Yes, and Steve still being the jerk, no pun intended with his great movie, but he in the first one, you can call me Mr. Steve Martin, and he's still doing that, like digging through his wallet. Oh, luckily I have a one here, and he puts it in Aykroyd's tip jar. Marty being the waiter, now knowing that he would get into the five timers, he's already a three timer, so this is a little strange to kind of put him in that role, I guess. That was designated. I think Lovitz did it in the first one. So Mike O'Brien at the door, which has not gone into the same career as Conan, but has had a very good writing career since leaving SNL. So yeah, there's a lot of great moments here. You mentioned Bobby's talking about killing his friend, and Baldwin going, "I love you, drunk uncle." Oh, thank you. It's so great. Bobby just so funny.
Like right on the mark.
This for this to come back after all this time was just so wonderful. And I'm one of those people that wants it every time, but it certainly was not something that we got at that point. So this was really a treat after 20 plus years.
Yeah, it really was. And it's sort of in retrospect, not surprising that this is the last time that JT would host up until this point, because, it is sort of this epic way for him to go out having these moments here. But at the time, you didn't know, right? I mean, he was hosting almost every couple of seasons, and you're like, okay, this guy could end up being the greatest host of all time. And I think he certainly is in the conversation. It's just, how far high you want to have him. And that's something that we talked about a lot last year. And I want to just move on. I mean, we will talk about the cold open in just a second, but I want to move on to the next sketch, which I think is really a continuation of the monologue. So a lot of people say, okay, this episode has one epic moment. I think that the It's a Date game show is another absolutely epic moment here. The fact that you get, and like when you're watching this from start to finish, you're like, oh wow, we could be talking about one of the greatest episodes of all time watching this one. So you get Bill, who comes in as the game show host. He's playing Dirk Ellington here, and Bill, always fantastic, Bill Hader, as a game show host. And then he's going to introduce, it's sort of like the dating game where Vanessa Bayer is getting introduced to the three contestants. And first up, it's Bobby Moynihan as just a regular guy. Then next up, it's the Dick in a Box guys in a live sketch performing together, which is really fun and a change on the formula from what we had seen in the previous three times JT had hosted. And then in the third glass is the wild and crazy guys. So we get Dan Aykroyd and Steve Martin together playing as the third contestants, which is just so cool that we get the Festrunk brothers there, who basically hadn't appeared on the show, I think, since, what was it? The last time was a Roxbury guys sketch, I think in the Cameron Diaz episode. So it had been, 15 years since we had seen them. And truly, that was like very brief, if I remember correctly. So it's sort of like the first real time you're getting actual Festrunk brothers lines since 1978. And like, again, just so many great lines and moments as you get SNL characters merging together. And it's one of those things, Bill, that like you can only dream of as a fan, to see moments and characters from different eras. And this doesn't take place on an anniversary special. This takes place in a live sketch in a canonical episode of Saturday Night Live. It is so fantastic to me. Your thoughts on revisiting It's a Date?
Yeah, I think I like this better than the five timers just because of that, because you do get that crossover. These two, as you said, the Roxbury guys, they come in at the very end. It was very exciting at the time, but it was not this fully fleshed out thing where these guys are still stuck in a time, so many decades earlier, still have the accents, as Hader points out. But you've got these two great duos, and then Vanessa is fantastic. And Bobby is fantastic, and Bill is fantastic. Bobby saying after the second round of questions, "Oh, I'm going to lose."
He was like, was I supposed to bring a friend?
Was I supposed to bring a friend? It's so great. And, obviously, much time has passed, but to have two duos of guys who are just sleazebags from two different eras was so great. And I love everything about this sketch.
Yes, and I'm sure our listeners know my love for the Dick in a Box guys, but I felt like what they did here, Demi, was they took the Dick in a Box guys and ran through different ideas they could have had for music videos, but instead they like ran through them quickly in short songs, like the Both of Us, Raylene on your butt, and like in between that and the girls can't get pregnant in the summertime, like that whole thing. Like there was so many, like these were all even like the brand new fad, it's called Smoke and Crack. Like that was like these all could have been digital shorts, but they put them in the live sketch, and for me it is a complete like perfect sketch here.
Oh, I completely agree. Like seeing those two duos together, like merging SNL universe type, like it was insane. But I will tell you, Bill Hader as the game show host delivers one of my favorite openings. Let me make sure I get this right. He goes, "I'm Derek Ellington, and I feel awful." I love that. I love that so much. It's like my favorite opening for a game. I always get a little disappointed when they don't do it like that. And Vanessa Bayer being like the opposite of progressive, like, well, I think they're direct. Like, I kind of like I'm cool with it. Like, yeah, I like it. They're to the point, and I like that. It was just the perfect frosting to this like gigantic wedding cake of a sketch that was just given to SNL fans. That, I agree. Everything about it was great. The Dick in the Box guys coming into reality and still kind of being weirdly successful, even though you're probably sure it's going to be short-lived. Just, and like the Wild and Crazy guys, like everything about it, great.
Yeah. And I'll say, like, rewatching the episode again, the start of the show is so good. Like, you think you're headed for an all-timer. I think, and I'm a huge fan of JT episodes, the floor is so high because he's so good in a lot of this stuff. And I think there's a lot of other, solid things here, but nothing to the level of these two moments. I think that these two moments are what puts this episode here on the greatest episodes list. So if you really value epic moments, this will certainly be in your top 50. I think if you're looking at the overall episode, there's definitely some question marks. And I think that there's other JT episodes. And again, you're not going to find a bigger fan of JT than me, like who's also an SNL fan. I think there's other JT episodes that I think are better. So we'll see which ones do pop up on the list here. But let's go through the rest of the sketches and just see what other hidden gems or moments maybe push this episode into this countdown. So let's head back just to the cold open for a second, the Hugo Chavez Memorial, which is also really fun. Again, this is a shining example, Bill, for me of why Justin Timberlake ends up being in the top 3 of the greatest host countdown, because this is a guy who can open up the show basically by himself. He's not a regular cast member, but he sings as Elton John, memorializing Hugo Chavez. Your thoughts on the cold open, Bill?
Yeah, it's interesting when a dictator dies to have a cold open and put it in the candle in the wind realm. I guess the fact that you have somebody like JT in here to do Elton John this week, I don't know what you would have done in another scenario if it was somebody else hosting. But yeah, this is okay. I mean, this is got some really good lines where it's talking about that you say the U.S. caused earthquakes and you outlawed Coke Zero, and he has to keep reference to the fact that these are real things. The glory days of 2013 when not everything out of somebody's mouth was ridiculous. So yeah, I enjoy this one a lot. I think he does a good Elton impression here.
Yeah, I talked about Bowen Yang as Elton, like playing Elton or playing George Santos doing Elton and doing this exact thing in the cold open in season 49. And to me, that was with no sacrilegiousness towards JT, that was actually better. I think that was probably a more epic moment, but still, like, this was fun at the time. I'm just trying to be objective here, Demi.
I applaud your objectivity, but Bill, I will say, I just wanted to say, Parrot also wearing a beret that matches Hugo Chavez's beret, like that's comedy.
That's great. Yes,
I don't know what to tell you on that, but I just wanted to point that out.
Love that.
Yeah. So again, there's a lot of really great stuff here at the start. We go to the Veganville sketch, and I'm a big defender of these sketches. I think it's really fun when you can incorporate songs into music. I think that the Ville sketches are good. In this one, I like that they were doing a lot of older music. They tend to typically do songs that are of the moment. I'd say the most of the moment thing we get here is that if you remember 2013, very Harlem Shake was the moment, and we get the do the vegan drink a vegan shake as they're all dancing together with Bobby opposite of JT. I think previously we got Parnell and Forte, but this time we get them. Demi, are you a fan of these Ville sketches that we get from JT? They're always pretty cookie cutter.
I think that's why I like them. I'm like, oh, he dances very like a child would be very attracted to the way he's dancing with his hands and stuff. And it's like, does that work on adults? I'm like, I'm an adult. I'm like, but that's pretty funny. Like, that's kind of how I am. It's like, well, that's pretty well executed. So I have no hate whatsoever. And there's no groaning whatsoever when they start one of these sketches, because I know JT is going to carry it to the end. His choreography is going to be on point. He's going to hit the notes, and there's going to be some clever rhyming with a theme. So it's like, I'm all in. Let's do this.
Yeah. Bill, were you, I don't know if we talked about these Ville sketches last year when we were talking about JT. Were you a fan of these ones?
We did a bit. I do. If you're gonna do a recurring sketch every 2 years, I don't have a problem with that. I don't. It's when they went into doing it 4 or 5 times a year. So the fact that JT comes back basically every other year and does this, no, this is fine to me. And yeah, the Harlem Shake is really a time capsule moment. How everybody was making those videos at that moment in time. So yeah, I enjoy this. Some are better than others, but I don't have any hate towards these.
Yeah, and you would feel like the Harlem Shake is primed for SNL content just with the amount of cast members they have and the random people you can get in it. So I'm not surprised that they tackled this here. And like I said, I mean, like you got the Dick in the Box guys in the It's a Date sketch, so you get the Veganville. So now you sort of you basically have gone through all the typical JT stuff, and now the episode moving forward is not really a Justin Timberlake formulaed episode. And I do wonder if maybe that had sort of an impact on me at the time watching it live, where it sort of felt like he was the host, and it was like unique to see him as the host in an episode that didn't really center around him moving forward. We get this Nuva Bling commercial up next, where we get some as a contraceptive that goes discreetly into the vagina, with 100% effectiveness of getting that swag on, as we get a great face from Vanessa Bayer in this commercial. Demi, your thoughts on Nuva Bling?
When this started, I really want to hear what Bill has to say. But when this started, like rewatching it, I think I like almost started screaming, like, "Oh my god, I remember this!" I remember watching it live, and I was like, "They're doing it! This is crazy! This is happening! This is SNL! They're taking." And I remember these commercials; they were everywhere. Like, "Oh, put this in your thing, and everything's good." Great. And the fact that they were riffing it this hard. Oh, it was so satisfying. And I was like, it was all ladies. I was like, oh, I really hope a woman wrote this sketch, because it was
Would you believe who wrote this sketch? If you had to guess.
No, I don't know.
No.
I'm really bad with writers. I don't know.
The person who wrote, there's 2 writers on the sketch. One of the writers on the sketch is still on the show today, and that would be Colin Jost. With Edie Patterson, who I believe was a guest writer at the time, or a writer in training. Yeah.
Oh, that's really funny. It's so much funnier now that I know that. But it was so dead on. I could not believe they were doing it, and I was so happy. It's like one of those moments in SNL, you're like, and you just get to watch them do it, and I love it so much. They're wearing them as earrings, and it's like, this is perfect. This is great. This is great. That's just. Where's Kristen and Sherry? What do they have to say about this? And I love Hater. Where is she? I want to hear what they have to say about this. But
I'm sure we'll get some comments in the chat here about this one. But I also think we're still very early on into the Cecily, 80, Kate era here. This is Cecily and 80's first season, so we're starting to get like the female focused sketches that we'll end up getting moving forward. Eventually in season 39 we'll get the twin bed, and then all of that. So like it really is starting to happen here. And I think you get something like this, and it's just interesting, right? Like we're sort of straddling 2 eras right now, where you still have Bill Hader and Fred Armisen and Jason Sudeikis on the cast, but you're getting all these new people as well. So again, like a good moment here of like a check-in of where we are in SNL history, Bill.
Yeah, it's their first season, and they have the best line in this. Did you get those earrings from Tiffany? 80 says, close. I got them for my vagina. And Cecily ends it there. Like that's, you're getting those early moments of how great these two are going to be on the show. And yeah, I love this. Yeah, and Demi's right. Like these were everywhere, these commercials. So it seems like the perfect time for them to have done this.
An interesting structure to this episode where you don't get a commercial out of the monologue. This commercial will end up airing right before Justin Timberlake's performance. Because he's doing double duty, we need extra time for him to change into his performance of Suit and Tie, which is really fun. We get to see him with Jay-Z and the Tennessee Kids there. I went to the tour for this album when it was on. I mean, if you were a fan of Justin Timberlake and his music in 2013, you would have been waiting for years for Justin Timberlake to release a new album. He'd really gone into acting and focused on that instead of music, and finally came out with the 2020 Experience in 2 parts. And it was just so exciting. I remember in the summer of 2013, or even in March 2013, I remember just jamming to the entire album. And I'll say that the Suit and Tie performance is really fun, and I've seen him do this live a couple times. But his performance of Mirrors, which he ends all of his concerts with now, is so good. It's just, for me, like absolutely fantastic. I will say just some of the Justin Timberlake musical performances in the history of the show, I think, have been lost to time because of the things that he's done in sketches. But he has some really, really epic performances. If other episodes pop up, I'll point them out. But this one for me, Mirrors, is probably my 3rd favorite moment. The second musical performance on the show is my 3rd favorite moment in the entire episode. Demi?
Oh, was never really a JT fan. I was never really an NSYNC fan, but I was like aware of him, and I was like, oh, he's attractive and whatever he does. I like some of his songs, but when I heard Mirrors, I was like, I think I must listen to that song like maybe 50 times a day. Like I love that song so much. And when he performed it, oh my God, it was everything you wanted it to be. Like he did the chorus, he was like weaving around with his voice with the band, and he introduced himself, I think, at least for the first one, and then they hopped up on stage.
Yeah, which is sort of an ode to his first time hosting, by the way, where he does at one point introduce himself as well.
Oh, I did not know that, John. But I'm looking back on this, I'm like, Justin Timberlake is so talented. Like he's just so good. And like, yeah, I agree, that musical performance, if it's not on YouTube, I'll find a way to like hear and record it, because it is so good with the band and the outfit, and just everything is just like, I want to listen to it again like right now. It's like, it's so good. It's only on SNL. Like, well, did he have the band set up when he was on tour and stuff?
Yeah, no, he had the band completely. I mean, they followed him all around the tour. It was like this just like really cool backing band that he took with him everywhere. And I remember I used to like following them on like the early days of Instagram. I used to like follow all of their videos as they would go on tour with him, and it just so
I love
good.
that.
Yeah, just really, really great stuff here. And then I would say I'll say like two sort of weirdish sketches and 2 very interesting sketches that I could probably put in 2 parts here for the final 4 things we'll talk about from this episode. The Tales of Sober Caligula, sort of like it's a little bit of random sketch about a guy who is used to sexually having fun with his people, his disciples, as he would pee on them and all of that stuff. There's like an epic line here from A.D. Bryant at one point. Were you guys going to say the same thing?
Yeah,
Bill?
that's what I was going to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was it? The iced tea? Isn't getting iced tea better than seeing the world's largest pee? No.
Yeah, truly, like one of those moments.
No.
I think, yeah, one of those moments that if you go through the timeline of 80s career, you're like, oh, okay, like I could see why she was there, why she's put on the show. Like she
almost stole it. She almost stole it. Like that was
almost completely steals the sketch for herself. I will skip ahead for a second. There is a pre-tape in here that is a commercial that is probably only notable. It's called She's Got a Dick, and it's only really notable for being Michael Che's first sketch that he ever wrote on the show. Which is he was brought in as a guest writer, I believe, here, and writes a little bit in season 39, and then eventually will be convinced to audition for Update, and we'll get it. But that's probably all there is to really talk about that one. And then we're going to get 2 sketches that I think are really interesting in that they're versions of sketches that I think were probably done better with other hosts. And that's tough for me to say as a huge fan of JT. But I think, Main Justice is a sketch that's the second time we're going to see that. I love Main Justice. The Jamie Foxx version of Main Justice is so funny. I remember being down. I went to South Beach with my friends in the holiday vacation of 2012 to 2013, and we would not stop quoting Main Justice throughout the entire trip, which was from the Jamie Foxx version. But I love the whole, like, the second version is a lot less interesting when you find out that these were people that were displaced from Katrina, and like that was the whole bit that was explained in the first one. The second one just sort of like relies on the performances, which is, again, like, it's fun, but it's nothing like too epic. Bill, we do get Andy Samberg being in this one as well.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with them having brought this back, and it's the third time we get Marshall T. Boudreau, of course, from Potato Chip.
True, yeah.
Yeah, we know now that he's a judge. I like this a lot. Maybe I'm biased because my wife's from Maine, so all the jokes about Maine and Canada and you're a long way from Canada, you in Maine. They hit for me a little bit harder because it just is so funny to think of that Southern accent up in the New England area like that. So yeah, I don't have a problem. The Jamie one is probably better, but I don't have a problem with this one.
It's definitely better. Jamie's so funny opposite. I mean, Jamie can't keep it together with how good of a job Sudeikis was doing in that first sketch. And Andy Samberg in this one saying that he went to LSU and they were like, what is that? When they're all from New Orleans. was really good. And then we get an ex-porn star sketch for me, which was actually pretty, like, the lines in this one are really, really good. It's so based around Vanessa and Cecily that it is hard to necessarily like credit a host here as being like making a huge difference. JT's okay in this, but I think like some of the lines here in the ex-porn stars are really solid as well to end the night. Demi, anything that you really enjoyed from how we ended this night?
I just would like to just really quickly go back to Stefan. Like, this is like an all-time quoted Stefan segment.
Oh, true. Yeah. Sorry. I didn't mean to skip that over. Yeah.
The outdoor concert from a Zoloft commercial. Are you kidding me? And the outside is a burned down Red Lobster, but don't let that fool you. It is a burned down Red Lobster. Like, there are so many things from this particular Stefan segment that are chopped up and put into comps all over the place, and like it was all from like one episode. So I what were the clubs? Mary and your mother and I are separating. Those are the two I remember.
And Selfie was the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, you know what, I think, so first of all, definitely didn't mean to skip over it, but I'll say with the Stefan on update, like we're sort of like heading towards the end of the run of Stefan. We're near one of the later ones, and there's just so many good ones at the beginning, and the storyline of him and Seth getting together at the end that I sort of like, I think this one becomes more forgettable, but you are right, there are some really good lines here. Back to the ex-porn stars though, Demi, anything from that one that you want to talk about?
Like just saying bubbles all the time, and like JT cruising through like off time but on time. It was that was great, and just numerous ways that they escaped death and the horrible life of a most likely trafficked porn star is just great comedy.
Yeah, I think there's always some good stuff. I mean, Colin Jost writes these with Vanessa and Cecily, and always does a really, really good job. A lot of Colin Jost sexual humor in this episode, pre him being a cast member on the show. But he will. There will be jokes about magna cum loudly, and then. Right. The best gift you can give a loved one is oral. Yeah. And of course, we'll end on the Monica and Chandler champagne as well. But Bill, I'm sure you've mentioned to me before that the ex-porn stars are always a favorite.
Oh, I love these. I don't think we talked about this with him last year because these aren't really host dependent. I mean, exactly. This is completely Cecily and Vanessa. These never got old to me. The different ways they were able to never mention Cecily's name. This isn't one of the better ones of those. And I'm Brookie, and this is my friend Brookie. But yeah, this works. JT is serviceable here. At the end of the night, I hate if this is the last time we get him hosting, that this is the last sketch he ends on, because he's so strong in so many other sketches. Obviously, we get him in cameos and things like that. But this is a great way to end the night.
Yeah, it's definitely a solid way. I mean, again, I think for all JT episodes, like there's never a bad episode in the bunch. This is a good one. I don't think it is the best or the greatest JT episode. So I will be very curious if we'll talk about another one in this countdown here. But the question, like I said, my whole thesis about this one is, again, how much do those moments at the start of the show impact your viewing overall of this episode? So Demi, how do you feel about its place here on the list at 44?
Yeah, I think it should be higher. I hope there's other JT episodes higher up on the list because this was just I was so delighted rewatching it. I just stopped taking notes. I'm like, oh my god, oh this is all in one episode. Oh, this is a Main Justice. Oh, what a treat! What a treat! I was like yelping, even like a taco over the sink. Like it was so funny. Like I don't know why that detail's relevant, but like no time for plates. Up till yeah, I think it should be a little bit higher, but I'm really glad it's on the list and I got to rewatch it on this episode. So,
yeah, Bill, overall, how do you feel about JT's 5th time hosting here?
This checks all the boxes, John. Extra points for the musical performance, as you said. Great with both of those. Both great introductions, as you said, with him introducing himself. And I'm curious how many times that's happened in the history of the show. I know in the early days, Pardo would introduce a lot of people, but as far as the musical guest introducing themselves, it has to be pretty rare. And then we get the three amigos in the second one. So that's really great, too. And yeah, no duds, 2 classics, some really good returns in Main Justice and Ex-Porn Stars. Great pre-tape and Nuva Bling. Yeah, nothing wrong with this at all. I think this is probably should be much higher.
Yeah, I will say, as again, trying to be as objective as possible, because it's always a favorite of mine to go back and watch any JT episode. I think that, like, I wouldn't say that there's no duds in the episode. I think that commercial from Che is probably a dud. Like, I get why. I besides the fact that it's like the concept of it isn't so great. Like, I also think that like there's just not a lot there beyond the fact that like they really do a great impression of a romantic comedy within a very like odd subject matter. But regardless, I would say that it's, for me, it's less about there being duds, because there's rarely duds in JT episodes, and more about the fact that JT's standard is so high that I think that, Bill, when we're starting to talk about the all-time great hosts and their episodes here, we have to hold them to a bit of a higher standard than just a typical average episode. And to me, like, if we're going to be including Justin's episodes, Tom Hanks's episodes, Baldwin, Steve Martin, like, I think we have to be looking at their best episodes to get here on the countdown. And the question is like I think there's probably 3 better JT episodes at least.
Yeah, that's fair. And I can see maybe as we go through here, and if JT comes up again, which I'm sure he will, but the fact that there is 2 all-time classic sketches in this, along with the musical performances, puts it over the top for me at this particular moment.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Definitely agree. Bonus points here for some music. Okay, so those were 3 down tonight. 1 more to go. Let's talk about the final episode here on this countdown. And we've gone chronological again here tonight, but for the first time, we're going to go back in time. So we're going to head back all the way to a season we haven't gotten to talk about yet. And we're going to go to season 12, the first official season of the second golden era. We're going to go to Christmas, where we will talk about episode 221 from season 12, episode 8, December 20th. 1986, the William Shatner and Lone Justice episode of Saturday Night Live. Another one-time host coming in here. And this definitely has an epic moment that we will talk about, and a lot of fun stuff. I know there's many people who are big fans of the Shatner episode from season 12. So I think that we'll do some overall thoughts, and then we'll head to that moment. So Bill, are you surprised seeing Shatner's episode here at 43?
Not at all. This is my first season with the show, season 12, and we've had some good moments up to this point. Robin Williams and things like that. But I think this was the one that really solidified this cast. This one-time host, never hosts again. He's so really, really great. He's playing a version of his characters in a lot of these. Which you may or may not enjoy, especially for something as dated as TJ Hooker. But no, this is really great with what we get to see with this brand new Golden Era cast. Everything from the beginning of this to the end really hits in various ways. But I think we have a really great episode to talk about here.
Yeah, Demi, how did you feel about this episode making the top 50, Shatner and Lone Justice?
I'm really glad it did. At first, I was like, okay, because I was 4 when this episode came out, so I didn't see it, and I came of age when Shatner was like a parody of himself, and like this was just starting to happen, I think, in this episode, and I think I was like, it made sense to me why people remembered it and voted for it because it was so. There was a lot of fan service in this episode. There's a lot of in jokes for like a lot of Star Trek fans or TJ Hooker fans, which I never watched. But from the sketch, I kind of figured out what the thing of every episode was that I guess we can get into later. But it was enough to like you could get the inside joke even if you didn't watch the show. But there was a lot of fan service here and a lot of meta poking fun at their itself. And then the 10-1 was just not the 10-1, but I totally understand why this was picked now, and I'm really glad I got to watch it. There was a lot of really classic stuff in here, really smart too. So
yeah, there's definitely a couple of epic moments that have been replayed many times over that we'll talk about in just a moment. William Shatner from Montreal, so the same city that I'm from. A lot of connections from me to him, including that friend from elementary school. He's his great uncle. So so there was definitely that connection there. And then he also dated my fiance's grandmother.
What?
Yeah. So
Well,
that is, they went to the same high school together. So
William
there was just,
Have
Shatner's
you
a
met
Canadian?
Shatner?
I have not, I've never met him, but
William Shatner's a Canadian?
from Montreal. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, yeah, they're not like
Well,
together, but
well,
now.
I
but,
mean,
yeah. But yes, there's.
But you get him though. But correct.
Yeah, it's there's definitely some interesting connections here. I mean, Montreal is like not a small city, but it just worked out that way, I guess.
I've been there. It was very nice. There was a lot of French. I was like 9, but no, but and the familiar connections are really cool too. But I just was like Canadian. What? I don't know why that's such a. For such a loop,
super
but
famous, still around. And I think he's in the young age of 94, and hopefully will be around for much longer. Yeah, went to space. I mean, he's done a lot of epic things in his life, including hosting this episode, where there's 2 moments here that have lasted throughout SNL history. So we will start with the Star Trek convention sketch. I think you got to start there with the Get a Life. This is a George Meyer, Robert Smigel, and John Vitti sketch that's very, very famous, where you have the Trekkies who are going to go to a convention and they're going to get to meet the amazing William Shatner, who will be asked a bunch of questions, and we get the best nerdy versions of Dana Carvey and Kevin Nealon and John Lovitz as they're asking all these questions, and it will frustrate William Shatner so much that he will just break and start yelling, "Get a life, have you ever kissed a girl?" and, go home, and just starts breaking all of these people's hearts. And then we'll get into a huge argument with Phil Hartman off stage, only to come back and end the sketch by saying that he was playing an evil version of Captain Kirk. And then it explains it all away for everyone who is so happy. Bill, one of the all-time great moments, and truly a signifying to me that SNL was back. This is like a defining moment, I think.
Yes, and 2 historical footnotes here. With conventions are just really starting. San Diego Comic-Con exists, and the Star Trek conventions. That's about it. Now there's one in every town every 5 minutes, and you get so many different varying celebrities at these things. But this was a big deal for Star Trek fans. They really kind of started this whole thing of meeting celebrities. And the other thing is. It's really interesting to think about how you had, if you were a super fan of something then, you had no internet, you had no way. Like I could remember SNL and Moonlighting, my 2 favorite shows when I was a kid. And I would keep a notebook of the names of the episodes, what date they aired, things like that. So you had to put in like the heavy work to keep track. So the fact that they're naming certain episodes, episode 38 and this and that was really hard to do. There was no basis for being able to find out this information.
No Wikipedia.
On a regular basis. No Wikipedia. These were the original super fans long before everything else. So I love that they kind of get their moment here, and Shatner just shows that he's willing to play. I love him and Phil off stage shoving each other, him showing him the contract and telling, and of course, this is the evil Kirk from episode yada, yada, yada. Just such a great moment from my boy Smigel here.
So good. And I think there's just something about it that you watch it in and you just see like this sketch could have never been done in season 11. Like, no offense to that cast, but it's just like one of those things that really works here. Like, everyone plays it so well. Demi, how did it feel to revisit this epic moment in the Star Trek convention sketch?
Oh, I mean, I've seen the sketch before, like on Reddit, and I was like, wow, I was so impressed because it was such a dead-on skewering of stan culture, but it was like pre-internet, like Bill. I'm so glad you pointed that out because to be a stan, to be a big fan, like there was a lot of physical work. You had to like highlighting TV guides, like you had to like say like yeah, you had to like find articles you like to like. Oh, that's how I would like read about Conan, like a lot of other celebrities because you couldn't look them up anywhere. There was no when Conan made the cover of Rolling Stone, I like lost my mind because that was like the only way to see stuff like that. So the fact that this was like this would play today, I think the same because like taking the care and disappointing really intense fans that would absolutely play today. That's happening with Drake and Kendrick like right now, or Kendrick and Drake, I should say. So stan culture is very real, and the fact that they highlighted it, like Bill said, and also treat it with respect. Like they were like, yeah, it's a game, but okay, you guys take this game really seriously. I will take it seriously as well because I don't want to let you down. I really appreciated it. But what was so surprising to me was like the monologue went right into this. Like it was like almost no transition. It was like, oh, no, for Star Trek. Let's see how that would go when I meet my fans. I think he walked off the stage or something. I thought it was a pre-tape at first. I'm like, that's weird. Oh, it's this. Oh, wow. So just in a lot of ways, it was very universe bending almost, and it's surprisingly still fresh. So I really liked it. I just like it a lot.
Yeah, so that monologue like wasn't really a monologue. Like, he did a brief introduction to himself, and it's really just used as a segue over to the Star Trek convention sketch, which ends up being, again, an all-timer. And then I think there's one towards the end of the episode that is just as epic as you get to see it in many. I don't know if it's still in the SNL Christmas special. They may have taken it out over time as they put in other things, but it was in a lot of SNL Christmas specials for many years, which is the lost ending to It's a Wonderful Life, as they they finally figure out where like how they should end this movie, and they go and they beat up Mr. Potter. It is so funny. As Lovitz is hilarious, and like everyone is so good, the whole mob, and it's one of those things that's like this also feels like an epic Christmas moment. I mean,
100%, 100%. I was 100% on the ride for it. Like when I saw it was happening, I was like, oh, it's this one. Oh, what a treat! I get to watch this like embedded in an episode. Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's so good.
Great.
Bill, I mean, again, you look at the episode and you remember the Star Trek sketch, but you forget for a second that It's a Wonderful Life is in this one too, and it is just as good.
Yes, just as good. I think they just removed it from Christmas specials a few years ago, so sadly, it's gone. Yeah, this is again, like, I know this is a movie that people still watch. Obviously, there's so many ways to watch things now, but It's a Wonderful Life in the 70s and the 80s was public domain. So even if you had 13 cable channels at Christmas time, this was on literally every night, every other night on different channels. So because they could play it for free, channels could play it without any consequences or paying anything. So you would see this 30 times a holiday. So
Easy.
them kind of hitting hard on this. As you said, all these performances are great. Jan, an understated performance as Donna Reed, doing the same facial expressions was fantastic. Dana as Jimmy Stewart, just so great. Even Dennis getting to play his brother. Yeah, so many great moments here, and they nailed it for sure.
Yeah, and I think those are the two everlasting moments from this episode. Let's go through the rundown a little bit and talk about other things that could have propelled this episode onto the list. So we get a little bit of a dated cold open where I guess you sort of have to do a little bit of research, but the song may tell you what is going on, which is like, I think this is an A. Whitney Brown written cold open where William Shatner as our host is playing Oliver North, who had sold, this is my best understanding of the situation, he had sold arms to Iran in exchange for hostage returns, Bill, and then he used the money to sell things to Contra rebel groups in Nicaragua.
Correct. And President Reagan at the time denied knowing about it, which kind of led to people thinking that he was a doddering old man even more than they did, because he said he had no idea what was going on. This is very topical, but I think the way they play this with the Battle Hymn of the Marines really kind of, it's not a hard look in to see what's going on here, as opposed to some of the other political topical stuff we got over the years.
Yeah, when you do more presidential address humor, like sometimes you really have to get like what's going on at the time. They're referencing the story of the week, but the fact that this is a song, Demi, I think catches you up a little bit. So it is like an upbeat way to start this episode, and brings the energy you're looking for.
I was shocked that I was like I was so glad that Bill was going to be on this, because I was like, oh, he'll have some context, because like I know Oliver North, I think he was, but I always confuse him with Oliver Stone, much like Boebert, I guess, during a hearing. But I knew he did something bad that wasn't supposed to happen, because I was like, again, 4, and I didn't really look really hard into it, but I was thrown by how much of a time capsule this was, and I was like, I'm gonna look it up, and I'm like, no, I'll do it later, because Bill's gonna be on this podcast and he can fill me in a little bit, which he did. Thank you, Bill. But it was just, because I guess like he took the fifth a lot. I think that's the game of the sketch when he was at a hearing. He just took I know you can plead the fifth in the military, but I guess so. And that is a very down the line way to address it, I guess. And I was like, is that Shatner? Is that what? So I'm glad we got to talk this out, because I had a lot of questions.
Yeah, and I think it's a Ballad of the Green Berets parodying the song, and they call this the Ballad of the Mute Marine for the cold open here. This will then transition into the monologue, the Star Trek convention, and then we'll head over to the Sweeney sisters. And by the way, if you do get a chance, if you're a patron and you get to rewatch some of these episodes, you'll notice that some of the episodes we put up are reruns from Comedy Central, and they reordered some of the sketches. So the rundown that we go through in the podcast is the original airing rundown, where we will have the Sweeney sisters coming up next. This is only, I think, the second or third edition of the Sweeney sisters. Bill, every time I watch one of these, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff with the songs, but I'm just reminded of just how amazing Jan Hooks is. It is just like the whole concept here is, Nora Dunn's character is marrying William Shatner's character, and then Jan is like, saying how much that she means to her, giving sort of like a speech, and it is just like fantastic stuff from Jan Hooks, only 8 episodes into her career.
Yes, third time they've done Sweeney sisters at this point, and Jan and Nora just so great here together. This might be my favorite Sweeney sisters, just because of the holiday theme, and not a lot of other than the engagement. There's not a lot of outer context going on. They're just singing, and that's when they're at their best. So you get a lot of classic songs here. And of course, ending with clang, clang, clang. I really, this made me fall in love with Jan all the way back in 1986. So love this so much.
Yeah, Demi, it's so fantastic to get to see these two women just like tour de forces on the show, Nora and Jan having this chemistry, and we're going to get to see them so many times throughout these next few years on the show. And this is another great edition of the Sweeney sisters.
Yeah, Jan's a knockout. Like, first of all, I know Jan from Third Rock from the Sun. That's like but she was like older then, but I was like, Jan's a knockout. Like, she's gorgeous, and she's like, she's singing, like she is selling it. Like, I think I vaguely remember reruns of the Sweeney sisters. It's great. Like, she was really a great performer on that show. So
yeah. So the start of this episode, like, already so good. Like, you get a really great cold open, an absolutely epic 2-hander with the monologue in the Star Trek convention over to the Sweeney sisters, which is really solid. We then get this TJ Hooker parody, which is probably, like, at this point, a lesser known work from William Shatner compared to all of the Star Trek stuff. A lot of inside references here, Demi, as you said before, that is like, I think this is, in a way, this is more inside than the cold open, which has the political humor. And I think that probably takes this down a peg. But if you're watching in 1986, I think this really plays for you, as I've seen a lot of our, a lot of our listeners who have been around then, like, really seem to enjoy this sketch. Do you have any thoughts on it?
I've never seen an episode of TJ Hooker. I know Heather Locklear is in it. I know the poster, and everyone looked really great, but I never watched an episode. But watching the sketch, I'm like, oh, he gets in trouble and he ends up on the hood of a car every episode. Oh, okay. And they're making fun of it. All right, that's pretty funny. So it was an in joke that like you could kind of pick up on, like, oh, he gets into ridiculous situations in car chases. He's like, what's the license plate number? And he's using his foot to like feel it out, to like somehow he's on the phone with the whole thing's ridiculous, and they're making fun of the what I'm assuming are like the ridiculous car crashes or the car chases that happen in that show. Bill, please confirm. I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can take the TJ Hooker out of it and just have it be this bizarre thing where he's a cop. But yeah, I mean, this was a staple of mid '80s cop shows, dramas where guys would jump on the hood of a car to try to stop a moving vehicle. Yeah, I mean, it's dated, but I think you don't have to know the context of TJ Hooker to enjoy this.
Yeah, I would say that part is probably the thing you don't have to know. I think Dana and Victoria's characters, like the nuances of them, I think are really hard to pick up if you never watch the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say maybe like a little bit of a momentum killer for me on the rewatch, but I'm sure live it played well for anyone who watched it. Then we get music. Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on. I have one question for you, John. So this is
Sure.
strange. This is something I don't remember, but rewatching this copy of this, when this sketch ends, you get Don Pardo saying, this portion of SNL has been brought to you by Hawaiian Pride Sugar for ugly divorces. I don't remember that at all. And I don't know that I've seen that in any other context. Do you?
I think they were doing more live ad reads, like going into commercials. So I think that they did do stuff like that, but I'm not like I don't have the encyclopedic memory, but like it didn't stand out to me as something that was so unusual for the time.
This one jarred me. I mean, they would do these outros where they would show a freeze frame of the sketch that aired and things like that, or they'd go to the band. But this one, as a commercial parody that only lasted about 15 seconds, really, I had no memory of this.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like, I can't remember where it was, but I think like even in the early 2000s, they did like a few one-offs of things like these coming in and out of commercials. But certainly this is more of like an original era staple where they would talk about the hotel that everyone would stay at, like all of the guests of Saturday Night Live would stay at the hotel
Essex
or
House.
whatever.
Yes.
Essex House, yeah, that type of stuff. But yeah, interesting point there. Lone Justice is our musical guest here. Probably like a pretty obscure musical guest, a country band from the 80s. Nothing here, Bill, that I think is worth adding to the episode. Then we're going to get Al Franken on Weekend Update, who's going to be a medical correspondent who's there to talk about Reagan's prostate exam. And he does a really good job with this. Like, I got to give a lot of credit to Al, who just comes on to talk about it and gets like slowly disgusted as he starts to think about his future prostate exams. And it is very, very funny stuff, Demi, to see Al Franken on Update pull this off.
Yeah, I was very impressed because Al Franken is very Al Franken, and sometimes it's like, okay, but he did such a good job pantomiming what the procedure entails and like how cringe-inducing. Like he was moving the way a woman would when she's describing what a pap smear is. Like it's like like he did it so well. The progression was so well, and I also thought it was very funny that there was a president with a prostate problem that like was a big deal. It's like, okay, I guess it's a thing because we just had that thing with Biden that I guess disappeared off the face of the news landscape. But it's like, oh, okay, it's all everything has already happened. Like we've already been here. But yeah, Alfredo's performance, I was really impressed. I've never seen him like embody a character and like not. He was very silly. I'm not used to seeing him like silly. And he did a great job. I'm glad you phrased it like that.
He was really good at this. We're going to get a Star Trek sketch here, which is the lesser known Star Trek sketch from this episode, Star Trek 5, the restaurant enterprise, where if you're a Star Trek fan, like a lot of really fun stuff that Phil Hartman does here. A really great appearance from Akira Noshimura as Mr. Sulu, who has put on a little bit of weight, Bill. So the continuity from Star Trek sketch to Star Trek sketch is fantastic.
So good. This meta reference before meta was a thing to season 1 to talk about Akira's performance in the Elliot Gould episode as Sulu. And Yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot. This whole idea of them repurposing a spaceship for a bad seafood restaurant. Jan as the bitchy customer is really great here. I think Phil does a really really good Bones McCoy impression here. Yeah, this works a lot, and Dana too coming in as the bad guy, who's not trying to destroy anything. He's trying to get them a bad review.
Yeah, that was very, very funny. And then we'll get to William Shatner, who is doing a sketch that I actually think is so underrated in the context of this episode, where he's opposite of Nora Dunn, and he has this moment where it's like a very like at home, sort of like toned down version of like husband and wife in the bathroom, and he walks in with like his underwear and a shirt, and he's like, look at that. And first, like, it's, you think that he's talking about his wife, but he's actually talking about himself as he looks at himself in the mirror and shakes his body and dances. And like, these are the types of sketches that I felt SNL like eventually got away from, but it was sort of like there was something like Marilyn Suzanne Miller-esque about it that was nice, like slice of lifey, even though it had like a very particular premise of like our characterization of one of the guys. But I really felt like, Demi, that this was something that should be better recognized from this episode.
Oh, it was almost sweet. It was like meta because it was like Shatner like thinking he's so great over and over again in the mirror and like popping his muscles and like demanding his wife feels them, and she's just like, no. But it was meta. But I don't know if Shatner at the time was known to talk. He almost talks in the third person, or you imagine he does. I don't know if that had started yet, but the fact that he was so obsessed with himself, but like not creepy, like you're never scared in this sketch. Like usually if a man were to start doing that in real life, you would kind of be terrified. But there was none of that. It was like you said, like very sweet, and it was pretty well structured, even though there kind of wasn't a structure, which I appreciated. I liked it. It was nice.
Monette mentions in the chat, written by E. Jean Carroll, which is very true, which is a very like unique footnote in SNL history. Bill,
whoa.
Yeah, crazy. Bill, you looking back look at that. How did you feel about it?
Did she get inspiration from her unfortunate encounter with a certain convict president?
This is the fantasy version. This is what she wishes.
Right, exactly.
Men were like...
Yeah, as you said, John, like this is something I wish they would do stuff like this today. It's not a long sketch. It's a two-hander. Nora's really good in it, playing this clearly put out wife, but still humoring him, not degrading him in any way, even though he gets more and more progressively bad with the things he's saying, like he makes her feel younger than she actually is and things like that. I like this one a lot. I think Shatner shows off his acting chops in this one.
It's really great. And Kevin Nealon shows off his chops too in the next sketch, where he is just putting on like his best. I mean, he's really, really good at dry stuff here, but like dry stuff in general. But like I also find this quintessential Kevin Nealon as he's talking about his Christmas memories. And I have such fond memories of seeing the sketch for the first time and being like, oh, Nealon is hilarious. Like we'd already seen Mr. Subliminal and we were starting to like try and figure out like what he could do, but he's still a featured player on the show at this point, and they're giving him a chance to spotlight and sort of find his way into this cast. And I think that he is so great in this Christmas memory sketch, Bill.
Yeah, a little fire going. No fireplace. Sister's just smoking in bed. Yeah, he was so. I've said it a couple of times before, but like this whole featured player thing was very confusing to me as a 12-year-old. Like I don't understand what's going on here. Is he lesser than the rest of the cast? Like, and he wasn't. Like he may as well have been part of the main cast, and he was, because he had so many big pieces in this first year. And this is one I think that gets forgotten. I don't know that this was ever put on Christmas. Maybe it was early on, but put on Christmas specials and things like that. I think this is a great, introduction to Kevin as this really, as you said, dry comedian who has a lot of great lines here. They never give cast this kind of thing anymore either.
Yeah, it was really, really good stuff. Demi, were you reminded about the talent of Kevin Nealon when you got to see him in the Christmas memory sketch?
Oh yeah, very much. I've never seen that one before. And like he just starts spiraling and you're like, where are you taking me? Like, where is this going? It was almost like Steve Martin's monologue about Christmas. It was very, very similar to that. Bill's like shaking his head. Yeah, it's like, oh, this is going somewhere. How dark are you gonna go? Where are you going with this? Yeah, and like if you look and then you start to look at him, you're like, oh, his hair is like kind of not fat. Like it looks like he doesn't really know how to survive in social and society. Like you look a little forlorn, a little I don't know how to.
Well, I don't think
say it
that's his real
exactly,
hair.
well, exactly. That's exactly. You're like, oh, this whole thing is a character. You start to realize this is not him. Like he's embodying someone. Also, if I could just skip back real quickly to William Shatner, look at that great best look in the world from right with the Garters.
Yeah.
Lonely Island. Almost.
Yeah.
It's
No, that's a good reference. I love that. That's really good. Kevin, like I said, so good in this one. I think there's really good stuff. And you mentioned Steve's one, which Steve's one probably airs, I think it's 2 weeks before this in the Three Amigos episode. So again, like why that obviously overshadows something like this, which is great stuff from Nealon. And then the end of the episode is, we get It's a Wonderful Life after this. It's sort of like a Christmassy end to the episode where there's nothing too epic. We get another performance from Lone Justice, followed by a Tom Schiller film featuring Griffin Dunn, who had hosted the previous season, the true life story of Frankie Toussaint. Is it like kind of random, Bill, in this episode?
Yeah, very random. Although Tom Davis has some really good. We get Franken and Davis both getting a moment here in this episode. He's the doctor. Griffin says, I'm sure you did everything you could. No, that's just it. I could have done more. And eventually Griffin kills him and they go to trial. Kind of peters out, and but I think it's a really strong beginning to this Schiller piece, and it's forgotten through all of the great Tom Schiller pieces that we got in the original era and in this era. Griffin Dunn is such a strange. They did this a lot in this era too, where you would just get this random actor who wasn't on the show, wasn't hosting anytime in the near past or future, and it was interesting for sure to end this way.
Yeah, and then Buster Poindexter is going to come on, who had been on, had been on many times, and will continue to be on throughout this era, the start of the second golden era, continuing to perform. It's a nice, Christmassy way to end this episode. And yeah, like it sort of for me like lacks that like major punch. I mean, It's a Wonderful Life sketch is sort of that final like high note of this episode for me, and then the last like 15 minutes is musical performances in this Tom Schiller film. So like I do wish we got something like pretty big from the cast here, but overall, like beyond that, like that probably takes it out of the pantheon of all-time greats. But I think that overall this is a really, really solid episode. I mean, from start to basically, I don't know, almost finish. It has everything you're looking for. The musical guest was okay, but I mean, I'm not gonna deduct points, but I won't say like, hey, bonus points for musical guest. But everything else here, very solid, including 2 absolutely epic moments. And I totally see why this is in this countdown here. So, Demi, I'll start with you. Overall thoughts here now that we've gone through it on Shatner's episode of 43.
I think it's great. I think it's I wouldn't have picked it out. I've never like seen it. I've only seen maybe some clips, but it's like not widely circulated. I don't know if I'm like I'm an elder millennial probably, but it's not really, kind of like just missed the boat. So I'm so glad that the people voted for this and we're talking about it on the show because it keeps it alive. So hopefully other people will watch it because there was a lot of really good stuff in there that doesn't get referenced. I don't know how much of this is on TikTok or not, but yeah, a lot of really solid performances. And I did really like when SNL is not funny. They don't do it very often. It's very rare. But the true life story of Frank, I barely knew any of those references, but it wasn't really for comedy. And I'm sure that's very difficult to do. And I really appreciate it when SNL does that. And I don't know. I still have to look up. I don't know. Was Griffin Dunn, who was a murderer? Is he related to Dominic Dunn? Like, I kind of know who that. No. Okay. But I did appreciate that. So I'm really glad it was resurrected for me. And I got to see it for the first time because as a whole, yeah, I can completely understand why it was voted. And I thought the musical guest was very talented. Never heard of them, never again. But I thought they did a really good job. She did a good performance. It was a good band. I have no idea who they are, but
Definitely. And, again, this is a episode that I think sort of solidifies the end of a run of like, whoa, this is a new SNL. Like, it's back. It's different. Like, we did have the Three Amigos episode, Robin Williams episode. Even, Kinnison, I know a lot of people like, and so obviously Sigourney Weaver in the premiere, but like there's some stuff that's sort of building up. And then like, as you head to holiday break, Bill, you're probably watching this live and being like, all right, this is an exciting show again. Like, I can't wait to see what they're going to come back with. So again, a very memorable episode for a lot of people who fell in love with this era.
It was, and I didn't know it was a terrible show before season 12. So for me, this was just like, oh, this show has always been great. Obviously, going back and watching 11 later on in life was like, oh my goodness, that so lucky that we did get this season 12 and what we were able to get from there on out. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how many season 12 through 15 we get in the countdown, because I think there's a lot of really good episodes. This would be pretty high up for me as far as that era. Two all-time classic sketches, plus the Sweeney Sisters, plus a great update piece from Al Franken, plus a great piece from Kevin Nealon. So I mean, you could just go on and on and on. There's nothing here that I would take out. Even the Schiller piece, I think, works pretty well. So yeah, I'm happy to see where this landed.
100%. Okay, this was a lot of fun tonight, revealing 46, 45, 44, and 43 here on the countdown. So our final segment of the night is that we will show you the current rankings with the 8 episodes. We'll show you Bill's rankings and my rankings. And then Demi, you have all the power tonight. You get to choose, and we're going to get the chat's opinion as well, but you got to choose which list is better so far. So hopefully you're able to digest what we tell you here. Bill, I went first last week. So this week you will have to tell the listeners why the list you put together makes the most sense and why you placed your episodes where you placed them. So I'll put that up on screen here for you.
Okay, so I'm keeping Patrick Swayze in the number 1 slot. I think overall, from beginning to finish, that's still the best episode that we've talked about in these 2 weeks. Right behind that, Shatner and Lone Justice that we just spoke about. Keeping David Alan Grier at number 3. I still think that's such a great moment in the silver era of 95. I can barely read this, sorry.
No problem. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to show this on screen with all of the writing here. But you do have David Alan Grier, then you have Justin Timberlake. Yeah.
Justin Timberlake at number 4, although I think they're better JT episodes from the really good stuff that we got here puts this in the number 4 slot for me. Conan coming in at number 5. A couple of epic moments from one of the most famous and most popular people that have hosted in the last 25 years. Seinfeld coming in at number 6, and then Hathaway and Michael Jordan rounding out the 8.
Okay. Very interesting. So, Demi, I have a difference of opinion with Bill here, where I strongly feel like Jerry Seinfeld, Annie Lennox is the number 1 episode that we've talked about so far. There are no duds in that episode. You don't have your epic, iconic moments that I think will put other episodes ahead of it, but it is so solid from start to finish. It definitely is a favorite episode of all time. And I think it's a great moment that shows that in a transitional era with a very large cast, that SNL can still have these all-time great episodes. And I think that's one that people go back to a lot. I think that I put Shatner's episode similar to Bill in second place because it is one of the greatest episodes of the start of this second golden era at the show. So it makes sense for me. It's right ahead of Swayze, who's there in the top 3. That's the number 1 episode that we both had from last week. I then have David Alan Grier as well. So that's similar to Bill. Then comes Justin Timberlake. So same order there. Again, Timberlake, I love his episodes, but there are some really great ones. I'm very curious to see as we go through what makes the list down the road and where we can place the others. And Hathaway comes in 6th. Again, it's a really solid cold open. We talked about last week all time with the Tina Fey, the Palin stuff. And it's just a really great episode start to finish. I do have Conan there in my 7th spot right now. Again, if we're talking about greatest hosts, Conan's up there, one of the best, but the episode itself, except for Moleculo, it's very well quoted. I love Conan O'Brien. Don't hate me, Demi, but I just feel like the episode itself isn't in my top 50. It will be for the purposes of this countdown, but it has to be there. And it's really only ahead of Michael Jordan's episode, which I definitely feel like that is a solid place to place that. So 1 through 8, Seinfeld, Shatner, Swayze, Dag, Timberlake, Hathaway, Conan, and MJ. Here, Demi, which one is better so far?
John. So it's
Okay.
like, don't my logic. I'm sorry, but I was gonna say like, okay, you're being very objective with Justin Timberlake, which I recognize and respect. And I'm like, okay, it was a better episode than Conan's. I'm trying to be better about being objective because he's the best anyway. So like, it doesn't matter. It's fine. But you also have Seinfeld up top, which I agree with. Even though Bill, by my own logic, even though Bill has Conan higher, which I completely applaud and agree with. I am impressed by your objectivity, John, and you also have Seinfeld higher, which I think is correct. And you have Timberlake. Is my logic going to fall apart here? No, it's fine. Okay. Well, that's it.
All right, Bill, a crazy take on Seinfeld being so low, in my opinion. So I'm curious if you will change that, but it's your list.
Listen, I mean, Seinfeld is, I don't know if this is a direct comparison, but Seinfeld's to me what Justin is to you, as far as like somebody that I admire and really love and would have loved to see host more than he did. But I think the lack of a classic sketch takes it down a lot for me here. We're talking about the top 5% episodes of all time. And every other episode that we've talked about thus far has at least one of those moments. So that's why he's a lot lower for me.
Yeah, that's fair. And I do think it's one of the greatest episodes of all time that doesn't have an absolutely all-time classic sketch. So that's fair. Where you place that on your list, I mean, I'm curious, like I could always move it down if I feel like there's a lot better ones moving forward. But of course, we'll have 4 more episodes next week to talk about where we will introduce more to the list and we will move forward. I think to make it easier to read, maybe I'll remove the episode, season numbers, and dates here so that we can talk about that properly next week. But always trying to figure out the best way to continue to do these shows for all of you. So this was an absolute blast, guys, to talk through this. Demi, you were so fantastic on the show here tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Oh my God, John, thank you for having me. Thank you so much. I love talking to Bill and getting his perspective on stuff. And thank you so much for knowing the writing credits. That really adds to my SNL knowledge bank. I just think it's so great. I think these shows are so great. It's almost like anti TikTok, like short form. It's like anti short form. And I think it's so important. And I just think it's great. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
And thank you for being such a great supporter of everything we do over here. It's always wonderful having you call in during the season and then getting to chat with you more over here. This was a blast to hang out with you for a couple hours. Bill Kenny, great job here tonight. Anything that you would like to plug?
No, just find me back here next Monday. And, we haven't had a lot of mano-a-mano fights yet, John. So it'll be interesting to see as we move on here if there's anything that divides us as Paul Simon and Marty Short have in the past. So, but it's great to talk to both of you as always. So glad to be here.
Yeah, well, we're trying to be, we're going to start off slow. We'll see. Someone's going to come up at some point and we'll have some fun with it. In case you missed it here on the SNN, we finally got to release season 21 of Everything You Need to Know About Saturday Night Live. That is available now on our YouTube channel. I hope you enjoy it. It is the renaissance coming back after this a disaster of season 20, and it was a lot of fun to go through those episodes and explain them to them, everything you need to know about them to all of the people out there. So we're very happy to bring that to you. I'm also very excited that we'll have season 22 premiering not this week but next week, so 10 days from now. I believe we're looking at June 26th for the debut of season 22 of Everything You Need to Know About SNL. Another very fun season to talk through, so looking forward to that and sharing with you all summer long as we go through both our countdown and that series, and maybe an interview or two along the way. So I really want to thank everyone here for joining us on this countdown show here tonight. I want to thank latenighter.com for being our presenting partner. If you enjoyed what you heard here, let us know your thoughts. I love getting to read the comments. So if people have thoughts on the episodes, I'm sure there's things that we got wrong or things that we got right. We want to read all of them here after the fact. So let us know. We'll also be posting the graphics of these on our social platforms at the SNL Network 1 a week after these, so we don't spoil the podcast. And then on Patreon after this show, so just give me a little bit, I will post on Patreon these episodes for all of our patrons to watch as an extra perk, patreon.com/the SNL Network. And I look forward to being joined by other great special guests throughout the entire summer. So thanks everybody for joining us here this Monday night. Thanks to Bill and Demi. And my name is John Schneider from the SNN, and we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.